Hello and welcome to Millbrae for this week's Borders Rugby Special. None of the Big Eight in the area are playing in the Borders this weekend, so we've come away on a trip to the west and delighted to be broadcasting to you from Ayr as they host Selkirk in one of the quarter-finals of the Scottish Cup. Well, Clancy and Robin Purdie have made the trip with me, and good to come to you from one of the real historic grounds in Scotland, which has seen a lot of great days and big moments in the past. And Robin joins me now. Robin, it's a venue that's claimed many a Borders victim in the past, but some memorable victories too.
Yes, good afternoon, Stuart. You're right, Melrose and Ayr have had some great ding-dongs over the years, both here and at the Green Yards. But yeah, it's Selkirk who are in town today, and not that many teams win here full stop, and I don't think Selkirk are going to find it overly easy this afternoon.
So we're here for one of the quarter-finals, but only 3 ties are being played today because GHK pulled out of their match at Mansfield Park, giving Hawick a free pass to the semi-final, where they will play the winner of the match between Heriots Blues and Glasgow Hawks. Well, in the other tie today, it's between Currie and Mar. That's happening at Millennium Park. What do you make of all this? I mean, to get to the quarter-final stage and only 3 of the 4 going ahead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, the GHK situation. I see it to an extent from both points of view. You know, Hawick understandably will be less than impressed, you know, gate receipts, bar takings for the game, etc. today. But I think it more is one of these sort of don't hate the player, hate the game situations. The cup format isn't really working this year, and I know we've had discussions about, you know, what you've proposed, etc., and that would sort of take this exact situation out of the equation, I feel. So I can see that from both points of view, but it's sad, as you say, that it gets to this stage in the competition and there's one game less and there's a team that gets a bye, essentially.
Of course, we have to recognise for a lot of the clubs it's been very difficult to get excited about the Cup when so many have got their mind elsewhere, league matters, relegation, promotion, that sort of thing. It's just something that they could really do without.
The 12-team National 1 League, there's still rugby to be played. There's a league to be won, and there's relegation places to be determined, and it just overlaps that wee bit, and it's just a wee bit fragmented, and it needs to be fixed. There's still a place for the Cup, absolutely. You know, we're here today. There's a good buzz about the place. Both camps seem to be up for it, so there's definitely a place for it. It just needs amended to fall into line with the league season, and to ensure that this type of situation with GHK doesn't crop up again. But like I say, I do sort of see it from GHK's point of view as well.
National 2 and National 3 teams, of course, don't even get to play in any kind of competition of a knockout persuasion. And like Berwick, of course, who have had the Shield in their cabinet for many years now, because obviously they won it pre-COVID, then COVID struck, and they've kept it ever since. But sadly, for them, they haven't been able to defend it. Yeah,
I think that's probably, you know, if we're going to use the word farce in any capacity, that's probably the most farcical aspect, that there's 2 divisions of teams that aren't involved in a cup when the others are. So yeah, that's just another aspect of it that needs to be looked at. But hopefully the tweaks will be made. There'll be the amendments as I believe have been proposed, and there does appear to be one glaring fix to this, and I believe it's been looked at the right levels.
So we're here at Millbrae. This is your first time for a while, isn't it, being here? I know it's been about 4 or 5 years since I last came here. Pitch looking really, really good.
Yeah, pitch is looking in fantastic, Nick. Obviously there's our Bulls play here as well, so just right around the place it's a good setup. Pitch looks good, and we've hit it on quite a good day as well. It's not particularly warm, but it's calm. There's no wind, and it's dry for the time being, and hopefully that'll continue throughout the afternoon.
We're going to be talking, of course, to both coaches, Stuart Fenwick, head coach of Ayr, and Scott White, head coach of Selkirk, in possibly his last game today in charge. But of course we don't know what's going to happen. If they win, then his tenure here extends.
Yeah, I think he'll be hoping that that's exactly what happens if Selkirk win today, and that's not a given, of course. Let's take league positioning, if you like, right out the equation today and look at it on paper and look at the teams and all that kind of stuff. So it's certainly not going to be easy for Selkirk today. But Scott will absolutely be hoping that his tenure continues into the semi-finals, where if Selkirk win today, of course, they've got a home semi-final.
And that's going to be either against Currie or Mar.
Yeah. So, I think Selkirk will be hoping to get through, like I say, home semi-final. But of course Ayr will be looking at it, and if they get through, I think they're going to be at home to, they are going to be at home to obviously Currie or Mar. They're close neighbours, and really would be a great occasion down here, a cup semi-final, Ayr v Mar.
I was saying earlier, I mean, I've been to kind of Fullerton Park and also obviously here at Millbrae, and the passion that the spectators bring. I mean, it's almost that extra man. I'll be obviously talking to Stuart about that later.
Yeah, it can get partisan down this neck of the woods, and I think that's a good thing. You know, it gets a bit partisan at Mansfield. It gets a bit partisan on what they call the Cop at Jed. So yeah, absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. And here's hoping that's what it's like today.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Okay, well, we'll be hearing from both coaches later in the programme, but let's look at what else is going on this afternoon around the country. Yesterday, I sat down with Dale Clancy to go over them, starting in National 1 with Kelso visiting GHK, and we're going to hear first from the Kelso Director of Rugby. That, of course, is Neil Hinnigan.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of controversy over cup games and fixtures and so on, and you know, us as a club, we've just been sort of waiting in the wings, sitting there, not knowing when we'll play, etc. and so on. So it's been a little bit of turmoil and not knowing what lies ahead. But now we know that we have this game on Saturday, and then we finish our season at Highland on the 15th. So given our league position, we're 5 points clear at the top. We really need to be looking to get 5 points up there. It's not going to be easy. GHK's form since Christmas has been outstanding. It's probably been as good as anyone's in the league, really. I think they've only lost once since Christmas, so it's going to be a tough match, no doubt about it. Quite fired up GHK side against obviously a well fired up Kelso team, so it makes for a big match, and obviously they've got a big day planned up there, so we've got to put all that to the side and get the concentration caps on, and everybody, you know, knowing their roles, and we go up there and we give a best account of ourselves as we possibly can, knowing exactly what's at stake. Team wise, we're pretty settled from the Ayr team. Obviously playing Heriots last week, we did field a fairly weakened side, and there was only around 3 or 4 people that played against Ayr, but we're back to more or less full strength, with the only person being Ewan Knox that's missed out through suspension from the Ayr match. Everyone else is fit and ready to go. So yeah, no excuses or anything like that. It's up to ourselves now as a team and as a club, and you know, obviously the players are really looking forward to what is another big match.
Big game for Kelso, and as you mentioned as well, GHK, you know, when on their day they can be very, very competitive.
Yeah, they've got a lot of experienced players in there, in that squad, and I think they'll be wanting to try and send off Peter Wright as well with some good performances to end their campaign, because obviously he's announced on social media that he's stepping away from anything to do with playing or coaching after a long career. So obviously still be involved in the punditry side of things, but you know, that gives a little bit of an incentive for, you know, Peter to put a little bit more into this game, and also the players as well. So I think Neil has spoke well all season. I think he's done a great job at Kelso, and again he spoke really well about going up to GHK and taking it seriously. They know that they've got a big occasion on there. They know that there's going to be big performance coming from them. They're in form, they've been playing well, but Kelso can see the finishing line now. They can see that step into the Premiership, and they need to go and get the job done, and then they can go up to Highland with the pressure off.
So Kelso are 5 points clear with 2 games to go. If they get 5 points, then that puts pressure on Ayr to win with bonus points against Gala at Netherdale and Stewmel at Inverleith. And of course, they need to get 70 plus points to overturn Kelso's points difference. And talking to Neil during the week, he said, well, that's not impossible, because, Gala can slip up, and also Stuart's Melville already relegated at home. You know, they could concede as well.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but I think that Kelso have worked really, really hard after that Gala defeat to get themselves in this position. We've seen it last year with Gala. The wheels fell off after they had a couple of difficult performances, and there's been times this season where Kelso have not played well. And I think about the game earlier on in the season that we covered, Stewmel away from home against a team that you've just mentioned are already relegated. The second 40 minutes they were really poor. But they've managed to just get these results, get themselves in this position. They have had that blip against Gala, but the character that they've shown to, stabilise their season and then push on. We've talked about those Melrose and Ayr games, and they've approached them both brilliantly, got over the line to get themselves in this position. So yes, it's not impossible, but Kelso have done all the hard work now, and it's just a matter of seeing it through.
And a few months ago, we saw Selkirk needing 6 points from 2 games, and we thought, well, that's definitely doable. Didn't happen, and that's what Kelso needs, 6 points.
Yeah, but I think it's went the other way for Selkirk. Selkirk started off really well, putting some good performances, and perhaps they then they then suffered a dip in form, and the games that they should have won, they never. And the games, then they're left with 2 games, but they were second favourites in both of them. And you think that they were never going to get that. So, it's a kind of flip of the coin for that, the end of their seasons. But, as I say, Kelso have done the hard work. They've played really well throughout the season. They've ebbed and flowed in terms of the way that league campaigns go. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the final game of the season, I would be very surprised if I didn't see Kelso top of the pile.
Well, Andrew Fleming will be on the coach with Kelso, heading for GHK, so we look forward to getting live updates from him, and goodness knows what will happen on the coach back if they get a 5-pointer up there. Melrose travel to the capital to play Stuart's Melville at Inverleith, a dead rubber for both teams, with Stumel relegated and Melrose out of the equation in terms of promotion. But as we hear from Bert Grigg now, the head coach of Melrose, they'll still be looking for a good performance and a win.
Yeah, obviously we returned to league action this week after being involved in the Border League and Scottish Cup games the last week. Good opportunity for us to finish the league season out strong and really cement that sort of top 4 finish where we should be. And look, Stuart's Melville, obviously they've had a pretty difficult season, but they'll be looking to finish the season strongly. We're under no illusions that they're going to come out firing and they're going to look to put a performance out against us. Now, it was obviously pretty close versus them at home for the initial part, and wasn't until the latter stages that we started to pull away, and we're expecting a similar stuffy performance from Stumel, and it's a challenge for us as a group to get back onto that horse, get back into some winning ways, and put out a performance where we feel that we can really stretch Stumel and challenge them with the pace of the game and just our ability to move the ball like we did against Curry last week.
It's been a good season on the whole for Melrose. They'll certainly be building towards that National 1 campaign next year as well.
Yeah, I think we've probably reached that point in Melrose's season. We were always talking about, after they lost that game against Kelso, how perhaps they're now focusing on that Border League. We're now just talking about probably focusing on the sevens, if we're being honest about Melrose. But there's going to be a little change up at Melrose next season with a changing coach. There's obviously going to be that little progression that Melrose are going to have to go through if they want to get back to the Premiership, that they're going to have to bring bodies in or blood new players into the senior side. So there will be an element of focus on that. I would be surprised if they went like full strength for this weekend, with obviously a big weekend coming up the following week. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of players that they field. But it's a game you'd expect them to go up there and win. Stumel have been really poor this season, and at times even struggled for players and fielding a full squad selection. So it's difficult to even look at that in terms of our second tier of amateur rugby to see squads doing that, but it's just a sign of the times. But Melrose certainly building towards next year. 3
teams going down from National 1, Aberdeen and Stumel already through the trapdoor, but the other slot will either be Watsonians or Stirling County. They both play each other at Mireside. A few nervous moments in that one, no doubt, and one we'll be keeping an eye on for sure. Watsonians, though, have a game in hand, and their last game will be at home to Aberdeen.
Yeah, I think that, again, looking at that, we did just mention in terms of the landscape of rugby and how it's a sign of the times. You've got Boroughmuir being relegated from Nat 2 down to Nat 3, and then you've got Watsonians and Stirling County. But they're 2 teams almost going to be going down to Nat 2. So the knock-on effect from the Super Series it's had on the amateur teams has been pretty strong. It's almost half and half. Melrose and Ayr are fighting up towards the top of that league. Heriot's obviously got into the Premiership, but those other 3 clubs are really, really struggling. So it's going to be, a big weekend for those clubs. But Watsonians, you would say, and again with their form, like they've had some good games at home. They've obviously run Ayr close. Stirling County as well picked up a win against Melrose at the beginning of the season. So both teams can win on any given day. But Watsonians have that game against Aberdeen to come up at the end of the season. So one team out of those 2 will be going down.
On to National 2. Peebles are away at Cartha Queen's Park. On paper, should be a comfortable afternoon for them. Let's hear what Ian Chisholm has to say.
This weekend up at Cartha is just around finishing the season strong, making sure that we're building it next season around selection, but also around playing style and how we're trying to do things there. We've had a big ruck focus over the last few weeks, and Graham Patterson's been been leading that, and we're seeing that in bits. And it's really clear to us as a group that when we get that right, the rest of our game just flows from there. And we've been hammering it all season, but there's a real understand that tempo starts at the breakdown, and everything from there is all joined up. Pass accuracy, footwork pre-contact, the detail in our ball presentation, our hand speed, the type of pass that we're making, understanding momentum, when to kick and when not to kick, and pulling triggers and managing space off good carries. And I'm hopeful that we'll see a bit more of that this weekend than we did last weekend. And although the scoreboard suggested that it was probably an easy win, there were times in there where we were really, really wasteful, and we still conceded 18 penalties. And going back to the start of the season, where we're winning games but still conceding all these points, we could potentially double our tally, or at least double the time that we spend in possession without giving the opposition easy access into our half or easy exits out of their own half. But going into this weekend, our front row is John Gray, Lewis Copeland, and Willie Aitken. Ross Brown comes into the starting side for Sean Brotherston, who is unavailable this weekend, and Cammy Pye is into the second row. Ewan Jackson and Rowan McKeever, they come in for Finlay Collins and Murdo Anderson, and Finlay Sinclair keeps his place at number 8. Jack Harrison had a pretty solid game at 9. He is a 9, but I've just been needing him elsewhere this season. He kicks really well, he passes really well, and our challenge to him is just to create a bit of tempo around the breakdown and have everybody else catch up to him rather than the other way around. Frey McKeever, he had a good showing last week at 10, and I'm looking for him to do the same. Our centres are Rob Harrison and James Dow. Our wingers are Rob Smith, who comes in for Neil Pate, who had him and Scott Studdart clashed heads on Tuesday night playing touch, so they are both out for this weekend. And just as a precaution, I don't think either of them are concussed, and our doc suggests that as well. We just have other options there, and we would rather that they were 100% for Melrose next week and keep them in the frame for that. I'm on the other wing, and Donald Anderson comes into the squad for Scott Studdart. Obviously Donald's more suited to that fullback position, so I'll move onto the wing. A bit of a sacrificial lamb there. Andrew Brown, John Napier are our forwards on the bench, and we have 2 backs on the bench for the first time this season in Tom Mallinson, who makes his first appearance in the first team squad, and James Thompson, who came off the bench for the under-18s in the cup final against Boroughmuir there. He'll get his debut on Saturday, so we're pretty excited for him. And he's got a real quality skill set, and it's just around Frey, Donald, myself, trying to get him to understand how we're trying to play the game and try and get him a bit more vocal and driving the bus for us a wee bit. But look, excited for this game going up at Glasgow, and I kind of just feel like we're getting in a bit of rhythm again after a bit of a lull in January there. Excited to get this 15th season done and have a bit of a focus on sevens.
Yeah, it's, again, from people's point of view, it's been one of those seasons which started with a bit of promise and is perhaps petering off a little bit in terms of starting to build and shape for next season. And obviously great to have Ian Chisholm at Peebles to focus on the sevens. He was a great sevens player himself. Obviously got a great rugby knowledge as well. So I would be expecting a little step up in quality from Peebles this season. But again, it was a big weekend for Peebles with the two teams, the 2 youth teams being represented at Murrayfield. Obviously both coming up short in their finals, but players now coming through, and I think it's been a kind of waiting game for Peebles to really see the benefit of that town growing, and it's good to see another youngster getting a debut off the bench at the weekend.
Absolutely. It means we've got 2 James Thompsons playing rugby in the Borders, of course the one at Berwick as well, and it's Berwick that we're actually going to move on to now, because they really do need some points, but I think they're going to be good enough if they beat Lasswade on the 15th of April at home in particular to stay up. This weekend they play Glasgow Accies away from home. It'll be tough, but not the end of the world if they do lose in that game, because they do have that game in hand on Dumfries. Here's head coach Colin Young.
We're hoping to kick on from what we done last week against Newton Stewart, who are top of the league. I asked the boys for a performance, and they certainly delivered that against Newton Stewart last week, and probably got 2 valuable points out of it. We played the Accies at home earlier on in the season, and they scored literally with the last play of the game to win the game. So we will be looking for revenge on that A couple of small changes just due to some work commitments where Ben Nicholson is lambing. So Rory Handoff will move into 12 and Liam Robson will start 15. Alex Hall will return back on the bench. Apart from that, we're much the same as what we have been for the last couple of weeks.
More on Berwick in a second, but last weekend Mickey Yanotta, our Berwick correspondent, spoke with their captain Jack Webster about their challenge to survive the drop and not be in that bottom 5 at the end of the season.
What have you learnt coming into this division? You've got 3 to go. It's been a heck of a season, hasn't it?
Not often in a 12-team league you've got 5 going down, but we knew that at the start of the season. We know we've got to finish 7th to stay up. So, 3 games to go, still absolutely all to play for in that middle part of the table. So, see what happens in the next 3 games.
Both you and Lasswade, who you've got on the 15th here, have really asserted themselves in this division, but for that 5 going down. But that's the facts of life, isn't it?
It is, like I say, we knew that at the start of the season. It's not like it's been sprung upon us. A few weeks ago, we were looking a bit more comfortable. We've had a couple of narrow defeats since then, and we've kind of dropped back into the pack. We've had a few narrow losses that we feel we should have won, but at the end of the day, the league table's not going to lie, and we'll finish where we deserve to. But like we say, we've got 3 games to go. We're confident we can win all 3 of them, and we're more than capable of staying up. A couple of losses to teams towards the bottom of the league. We've ran the league leaders close a couple of times when they've come down here, same with Accies, Newton Stewart. It's been a step up, but we're learning all the time. There's a lot more structure to this league probably. It takes a lot more game management, and we've got quite a young team, so all new to a lot of the boys. It's a lot more, like I say, structured and just trying to sort of play our way into games. And like I say, last season there was maybe times we could chuck it around a bit more, and the pace of the boys out wide might bag us a few sort of easier tries, which doesn't happen in this league. But we've adapted well. We're doing all right.
Well, I'm the reporter. This is what I always tell Colin, but you are the knowledge. Now, what I've noticed, whether or not you agree or not, when you play your own game, you come across as though you can beat anybody. But when you get embroiled into their game, it seems to go apart a bit. Is that right or not?
Possibly, yeah. Look, we've got our own style, like you say. This group of players have been together for sort of 5 or 6 years now, with not too many changes to the squad. So, we're all used to how each other plays. We've worked on our game that whole time. We've tried to develop it as we go as well. Youngie's brought a style of play in that we're all really comfortable with, and when it does fire, it's really fun to play. It's about keeping the ball, it's chucking the ball around, but at the same time, it's about making meters as well and getting over the advantage line. But like we've shown against Newton Stewart today, when we get on the front foot and we play our own rugby, we can absolutely match any team in this league. But yeah, it's probably true of any team. When you get sort of suckered into another team's game and, like you say, embroiled into things that you're not comfortable with, it's never going to be as good. The structure falls away a bit. You're out your comfort zone. It's not going to bring the rugby that you're training for. But like you say, when we're on our own game, we believe we can beat anybody, and I think we're showing that we can absolutely beat anybody on our day.
And finally, you did say that you owed Newton Stewart one because they beat you comprehensively away from home. You also owe Glasgow Accies one as well because they did you on the last play.
We did, yeah. Again, like we've just been talking about, the structure and the game management of this league. We were 15-12 up with a minute to go, and that's where we should have seen the game out, and we didn't. That was one. It's turned from 4 points into 1 point. We do feel like we owe them one, but it's just another game. We need to go up there believing that we can win the game, and we do. We think we've got the game to beat Glasgow Accies. We showed here that we do. So it's just about going up there next week and showing what we can do.
Well, I'm pretty confident Berwick can get enough points from their last 3 games to survive. 2 out of these 3 will go down. It'll either be Berwick or Preston Lodge or Dumfries. Lasswade certainly seem to have done enough, I think. They're currently on 53 points. Berwick 46. Dumfries 44 and Preston Lodge 41. Now looking at the run in there, Berwick have got Glasgow Accies away. That's going to be very difficult for them. Lasswade at home, that's going to be the big one, I think, for them. They have to get at least 4 points there. And then it's Preston Lodge away, and even if they get 1 point from that, they will end up with 51. You look at Preston Lodge, Boroughmuir away, and Boroughmuir have been wagging their tail at the end of the season, doing pretty well. So, maybe a point there for them. Falkirk away they'll really struggle with that. Falkirk, my tips to win the league this season. And then, of course, they've got Berwick at home, which they could win. But if that happens, then they'll end up with 46. Dumfries, 2 games left. Away against Lasswade, you can't really see them picking any points up from that. And then at home to Kirkcaldy, who have done pretty well this season. But even if they win that, 48 is as good as they're going to get. So my tip and my prediction is Berwick 51, Dumfries 48 and Preston Lodge 46 at the end of the season.
Yeah, I was having a little look at the fixtures when you were running through them there as well, and I think they're probably, you almost couldn't have asked for a better run-in if you were a Berwick player. The Glasgow Accies game is difficult because of the position that they're in the league. They're still chasing promotion. They've got that game in hand. They're 5 points behind Newton Stewart. So that's a huge game for Glasgow Accies. So if Berwick can scrape anything from that game, it'll be a great result for them. Obviously to go away from home is going to be a big ask, but if they can get something and put in the sort of performance they did against Newton Stewart, you do find when they play the teams above them, they throw caution into the wind, and it's almost like the pressure's off. So it's almost a saving grace that they do have Lasswade as well, because you feel that I feel that if they get 5 points somewhere, I think they're safe, because I don't see with the remaining fixtures, I don't see Dumfries, Saints or Preston Lodge getting those wins that they need. The danger will be Preston Lodge, I feel, because they do have that game in hand. I always say you need cash in the bank, you need your points on the board, but you still have to be realistic and say there's a possibility that they can claw themselves back up the league. But Berwick have got a good run of fixtures, and with the confidence there, Webster spoke really, really well, really open and transparent about where they are and where as a club and as a team. But certainly, his head's screwed on, and I think the rest of the players will be the exact same mindset.
And of course, it's 5 down, but from next season, it'll just be the 1 up, 1 down, presumably.
It allows teams to get a little bit more stability. I think that this season we have to accept it for what it is. There's had to be a change. There has to be a way to implement that change. So some teams are going to have to go through a couple of years of struggle to get back to where they are. But it does reflect as to what level you're going to be in. But 1 team up, 1 team down does allow clubs to get a little bit more stability. In terms of long term and putting that development pathway in for players from youth level up to a certain level of rugby that they can offer. So, hopefully these 10-team leagues are the answer, for a long, long time.
Well, on to East League 2, and Hoyt Lindeen are playing at Dalkeith in their penultimate match of the season. A great effort from everyone at the club to try to finally fulfil these 2 fixtures, as Lindeen's Gary Alexander explains.
We're back in action this weekend up at Dalkeith. It'll be the first game, unbelievably, for 8 weeks. Last played Livingston on the 4th of February, which was a bit of a struggle to get a team together, but we managed it. But unfortunately, we picked up even more injuries, long-term ones, and that led to us failing to fulfil against Langham and Dalkeith. So much so, the problem was at one point we were feeling we would struggle to see out the season. And once we mooted that, it then became clear that there was implications in that if we did so, the competition rules are we're treated as having withdrawn from the league, where results are wiped out, and that would have an impact on league positions. We found out as well that there was prize money for first, second, third. If the results were wiped, Christopher would be second, Dalkeith third, and by not playing Dalkeith, we would be denying them the opportunity, because if they win against us handsomely, they could gain second place. So it wasn't a nice situation to be directly impacting league positions and prize money. We also felt really uncomfortable at letting Langham down, even though they had won the league. We were denying them a home game, gate money, bar money. There's usually always a good crowd at Milntown for our matches, so that didn't sit too well. And the other thing, it wasn't great for the club. It didn't look too great if we weren't seeing out the season. So we thought we'll have to try and give it a go and find a way to see the season out. So we've been working really hard behind the scenes. Huge credit to our coach Simon Spalding. he's a young coach in his first season, and he spent his time chasing players and so on. So he deserves huge credit. That we'll have a side together for this Saturday up at Dalkeith. So hopefully we can get some of the rustiness out of the way. I'm sure there will be after 8 weeks. But just to get back in the park is great, and I think it didn't help that once, as I say, we mooted who might fail to fulfil the season. The rumour mill went into full swing. The Lindeen were folding, closing the doors, etc., which was a whole load of nonsense. The old story in Hawick, you've got a sniffle at one end of the high street, and by the time the news gets to the other end, you're dead and buried up the well gate. But no, we were certainly looking to build towards next season using this game and the one against Langham. We're in discussion with Langham because at the moment it's the 15th of April, but our preferred date for both clubs is the 29th. Buys another couple of weeks for us to get some of our long-term injuries recovered.
There we are. I think the Dogs got him after that. But great credit to Lindeen, who are trying to do the right thing, I think, and good to hear that they're very much playing rugby next season.
Yeah, they've had a rough season, and it's great to hear Gary speak so openly about the trials and tribulations that you have at this level of rugby. You know, we've spoken this programme before about sometimes teams can't field players, but they still have a level of quality of player that they can pick from. You know, teams I mentioned before, like Stuart Melville. So they're a team that, you know, obviously have over the years have been towards the top level of rugby, so they still have that pool. It's really difficult in Hawick because Hawick Rugby Club now, the main rugby club, are probably going to be attracting most of the players because of the success that they're having. Something has to give, so there's going to be, you know, players going from one place to another. So at this level of rugby, it's really, really refreshing to hear and how honest and open they are about how they felt about letting teams down in terms of financially, because the impact that it's going to have on Dalkeith, not to get prize money perhaps, and obviously the success that Langham have had this season, they feel like they've devoid them of any opportunity to get a big gate. You know, these are the things that keep these clubs going. You know, getting people through the gate, getting the money over the bar, these social occasions that these clubs have. So it was great, you know, all rugby aside, the fact that you've got an event there, it was great to hear them being so open and honest about, you know, the difficulties that they've had on the field, how noble and how honest they've been off the field. I think that's really great for Hawick Lindeen. Well, finally, into East League 3 with Hawick Quins at home to Inverleith. It's the only local match in the Borders this weekend, and promotion is even more likely now after Edinburgh University Medics inflicted a defeat on league leaders Edinburgh Northern last weekend. Here's Quins captain Adam Hall.
We're into the business end of the season now. Big thanks to the Uni Medics last weekend for turning over Edinburgh Northern. Now means we only need 7 points from our last 3 games to win the East League title. We're playing bottom of the league Inverleith this weekend at home, so I'd like to think that we'd be in a good position to get the victory there, which takes us 1 win away from winning the league. So it's exciting times to be part of the Quins.
Adam Hall, captain of Hawick Harlequins, who play Inverleith this afternoon at Wilton Park Lodge, and that's the only senior game of rugby being played in the Borders today. After the break, we're going to be meeting up with the coaches from both teams in today's Scottish Cup quarter-final game between Ayr and Selkirk.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Hi, Nicky Walker here, Curriculum Manager for Borders College Sport. Are you passionate about sport? If so, then look out for the return of our Borders College rugby, football and hockey courses in early 2023.
Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
To commemorate the 7th anniversary of the opening of the Borders Railway, an 8 DVD box set is now available featuring the complete series Borders Railway from start to finish, plus the full hour-and-a-half documentary 5 years on, which examines the possibility of an extension to Carlisle, plus extra features including a cab journey along the entire Borders Railway, all for the special price of just £14.99, including post and packing. You can get your copy direct from hotdisc.co.uk/shop. That's hotdisc.co.uk/shop. The 8-DVD box set, The Complete Borders Railway, is available now.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a-brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
Well, we're just under 20 minutes away from today's big game here at Millbrae between Ayr and Selkirk. But a little while ago I caught up with Stuart Fenwick, head coach of Ayr, and first Selkirk head coach, Scott White. Well, Scott, we're not quite sure when your last Selkirk stint as head coach is going to be, because the season keeps getting extended, and here we are in the Cup. And obviously, this might not be your last game in charge. Let's hope it's not. How are things kind of building up to this one? Because there's been a lot of injury issues. You've had a lot of the farming community have been called away, which is, for a head coach, is an absolute nightmare.
Look, it's been a tough week, especially when, I'm across in Melrose on Tuesday nights as well, which makes it obviously that wee bit more difficult as well. So last few weeks we've been across at Southern Nights on a Tuesday and then Selkirk on a Thursday. So it's been a bit of a juggling act, and as you say, I'm staying here until the end of the 15th season, so I'm not be doing any of the sevens. But look, it's a juggle, but the boys that are in the squad today, they've been involved the last few weeks as well. So as I said to you earlier, it's just a matter of these young guys stepping up to the performance today, and I'm sure in terms of they'll do that. And I think we've got a good enough 15 here to win today.
I was going to say, how close were you to sort of pulling this game? Because, I mean, it's not easy. We've seen GHK, we've seen what Surreans haven't been able to kind of pull it together for various reasons. And, certainly valid reasons why you would have done that. But were you close enough to that, or what?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, we've got a kind of a wider squad there, and we kind of highlighted that once we lost to... Who would it be?
Well, it wasn't Musselburgh.
No, at home in the league when we looked.
Heriots.
Heriots, that's right. So when we lost to Heriots and we didn't become top 4 team in the Premiership, we made sure and sat down with the squad in terms as early as possible, because we knew that the 15th season was going to kind of drag on, and we also knew that then that potentially then overlaps with some of the sevens tournaments. So we said to the squad, so we got everybody there first and seconds to have a real buy-in to say, look, this season's far from finished. We've got the Border League final against Melrose, which we knew we had. You've obviously got a home game against Musselburgh in the next round of the Cup, which you back yourself to do well in. And coming to here today as well, then obviously then the sevens comes if we get through today. So, there's been a real buy-in from the squad, and we've had a lot of numbers down. I dare say the problem is then front row. Front row is probably the main concern, but, you've got 3 props playing in the front row anyways. You've got Callum McIntosh there who covers prop as well, and then you've obviously got Fraser Eason that's covered over. So, that's probably the only kind of conversation that was ever going to be an issue, but we've never had that issue, so it's never really crossed our minds about calling off today.
And it's actually not been a bad sort of situation for you. I mean, looking at the front row, you've got Javarjak, Poland international, Bruce Riddle, who can play anywhere in the front row basically, and also of course you've got Luke Petty, who's captain. So it's not a bad front row, is it?
Look, huge amount of experience there, and I'm quite excited to see them go today. And obviously we've got the added bonus. Obviously Ross Nixon's 300th game, which obviously gives a few young boys a kind of perspective. We've spoke to Daniel Main there on Thursday night, so he's a young youth club guy that's actually coming onto the bench for his first experience. So we've probably got 2 guys at the opposite ends of the scales, and obviously just highlighting that there in the team huddle there before, you're saying if you've got 20 Ross Nixons, you know what the result's going to be today. So we've put that back on the boys today to make sure that they step up and perform and give Ross the performance that he deserves.
Yeah, and I mean, what a stalwart for the club.
Unbelievable. 17 years they're saying. I think he debuted.
Is this his last season, in fact? No, he's hit 300. He's going on.
I think he's going to carry on and playing. So I think obviously James Head and Craig Jackson have been at him already. So I think he just loves it. He loves it down at the club, and he's now got his sons and stuff involved there. So he's down most Sundays coaching the P4 or P5s as well. So I mean, you talk about stalwarts at a club, and a legend in terms of the word that's chucked about quite often, and not in the right kind of mannerisms and stuff, but I think Ross kind of comes under all the banners.
Now, Craig Jackson, you mentioned there, of course, he just signed for Stirling Wolves as well, so a bit of a juggling act for him, but hopefully he'll be able to continue next year and do what he has to do for Selkirk.
Yeah, so he's signed for the sprint season, and obviously he's been quite open with the club, so he'll do one night a week up in Stirling, and he'll still do one night a week down in Selkirk. So he's kind of going to run the sevens along with Michael Jaffrey, and it's also quite a bonus that Stirling Wolves, most of their games are on a Friday night, so it doesn't actually cross over a lot. So I think out their 6 games, 5 of their games are on a Friday night, so he's still able to kind of do the weekends and the sevens tournaments along with Michael Jaffrey, and he's going to do one night a piece, if you like.
Now, this game this afternoon, whoever wins gets a home semi-final, which is bad, really, for you, isn't it? Because you don't like playing at home. Although lately things have changed round.
No, look, and we speak about it every week, and I think if you could bottle how you're doing so well away from home, we'd have been in the top 4. In terms, as you say, our away form's been excellent. We've only lost twice away on the road and drew across at Hoykovers. So, our away form has been exceptional this year. I don't know if it's the kind of camaraderie on the bus or what it is. As I say, if I knew that, would be a bloody world-class coach, or we'd be in a very good position. So, look, I'm excited about today. I'm excited about guys getting a chance. And, look, it's a testament to the squad and where we are. So, aye.
That's right. Well, of course, we've got to mention the Melrose Sevens, which is happening next week. Are you involved at all? Because
I'm not going to be there.
Really? Where are you going to be?
I'll be at Watsonians for a 3 o'clock kickoff.
Oh, of course you are. Southern Nights,
Watsonians, Southern Nights, 3 o'clock kickoff next Saturday. So I'm actually up in Edinburgh next week, and that'll be our first kind of. So I'm looking forward to watching the highlights back or the video back from today, because we play Stirling Wolves down at the Green Yards today behind closed doors with the infrastructure that got moved kind of late on this week. So we're meeting at the G&A, tea at the G&A afterwards. So, and it's only the changing rooms and the pitch that are kind of inbound with the infrastructure that's going up. But what an exciting time to be in and around Melrose when you see the tents going up, the scaffolding going up and stuff. So
you're going to miss that.
I'm going to miss it.
Absolutely, what a shame. But great memories for you.
Oh, amazing.
You've held that trophy aloft.
Oh no, look, it's when you growing up there, you always aspire to be standing up on that kind of podium at the end of the day. And I've been lucky enough to do that twice. And look, growing up in Melrose as a Melrose boy, it's a day that I'll never forget, certainly.
Well, good luck for today, and good luck obviously with the Southern Nights as well.
Thanks, Stuart.
Well, Stuart Fenwick with me at the back of the Millbrae stand, and it wasn't too long ago that we were chatting at Poynter Park, which was quite a memorable day, of course. How was the reaction to that from the game? Because obviously the boys were down because they lost, but it's certainly not over yet, is it?
I think that we were very disappointed at the end of that game. I think we didn't necessarily perform as well as we'd hoped to. We'd maybe left some of the things that we'd been working on training out that week. And maybe got caught up in the occasion a little bit. Taking nothing away from Kelso, they were excellent that day. They were very physical. They kind of dominated us in a lot of the contact areas. We just and they stopped us playing rugby. They were very, very effective there. That's still going on, but this turned our attention this week. It's been nice to go away and focus on something else. We've no longer got control of that. We can only do what we can do, and we'll just go out there and give it all each week.
And we're back at Millbrae, as you say, and this is a place that very few teams come and get a result.
We've not played much at Millbrae since Christmas. It's been great to kind of get some games. The few games that we have had here, we've really, really enjoyed. And the boys were buzzing when they found that we had the opportunity to play at home again this week and watch such a big game in our quarter-final. And
you played Selkirk pre-season, didn't you, and beat them?
We'll not take too much from that. We did play them down here. We had them down here in pre-season. I spoke to Whitey in the summer about trying to organise something out, and we organised a little run out against one another. They had some serious travel issues that day. It turned up a couple of minutes before kick-off, but we're a side that we've played once against each other. We take a bit of confidence from that. We certainly can compete at that level. It's a very different Selkirk side here today, and we're expecting a pretty tough game.
I've been around quite a few grounds in the sort of Premiership National 1, and certainly Fullerton Park is a very difficult place for any team to come. But Millbrae, with your home support, is pretty superb. It's like you're having an extra man, isn't it?
Yeah, we try really hard and to make sure that we can continue to get bodies coming down to Millbrae. We do a lot of work out in the community and got a big youth and mini section. So we're very proud of the fact that we get big crowds down here to come down and support the boys.
Do you must fancy your chances today?
Yeah, we're going to go out there and give it our all. The boys are excited. They've had a great week, and anything can happen when we're here at Millbrae. So we'll certainly be looking forward to it.
We have you as favourites.
Okay, that's we'll not be focusing too much on that just now. We're sitting there just trying to keep the boys calm and hoping that they can get themselves over the line today.
But as you said earlier, it is a nice distraction from the league stuff at the moment, and I guess they've been buzzing between Tuesday and Thursday down here at Millbrae.
Yeah, I mean, considering we've only had one game the last couple of weeks, we've still been getting 30 odd boys at training, so it's been really good. Good buzz about the place. Numbers have been good. The intensity of the stuff's been good. It's more about sort of finer tweaking things and that just now at training rather than kind of knocking our pans in, but yeah, it's been really good. The boys have trained really well this week, and certainly at the end of the training on Thursday there was a real bit of excitement about coming down here and playing today.
And a nice carrot as well dangling in front of you, because you've got a home tie if you get through today, and it's either going to be Curry or Mar. Yeah,
I'm obviously very close to Stephen Adair, so me and him have been chatting backwards and forwards today. It'd be a great thing if it was to happen. There's a huge amount has to fall into place for that to happen. So yeah.
And of course, we've seen, interestingly enough, that the club teams of the Super Series, the likes of Ayrshire Bulls and obviously Watsonians have done sort of reasonably well. Some of the clubs like Boroughmuir and Stirling County seem to have not adapted it as well. But Ayrshire Bulls and Ayr, obviously, it's working very, very well for you. What do you think the difference is there?
I can't speak for the other clubs. I just know we spent a lot of time right at the beginning, and we've had quite a few coaches and changes in management within the Bulls over the course of the year, but the message from the club's always been the same. We want to make sure that there's a united feel between the two squads of players. We've got a lot of movement between them. We do a lot together. We kind of share the resources in terms of we've got some fantastic guys out there coaching. We do 20 minutes training together every Tuesday night when they're down, so it's something we really value as a squad. It's something that certainly helped drive our standards forward, so we're very fortunate to have that resource available to us.
And of course the youth section as well, very, very important to any club. You've got to breed your own players for the future, and that's looking pretty healthy.
Yeah, we've got a great youth section. Our numbers are big. We had a really good result for under-18s in the Shield last week down against Melrose at Murrayfield, and a couple of other youth sections did well in regional competitions. So our youth section stuff's great just now. We've got some really good numbers. I've got a huge amount of volunteers that work really hard to make that happen, and spend a lot of time not just in turning up for coaching, but making sure that we're getting the environments right and coming down and watching training sessions for the senior squads and the Bulls and trying to kind of learn things as they go as well. So yeah.
So just finally back to this game again, your team news, looking at the squad compared with Kelso, it's not totally different from there, is it?
It's not. No, we're reasonably unchanged. We've been fortunate the last couple of weeks that we've managed to kind of keep guys fit and keep guys being available, so we've got a fairly good squad out today. Very aware of the big Selkirk pack. They're very strong up front today, but listen, we're here the conditions will hopefully will suit us. It's a nice dry firm pitch, a little bit of wind in there, but it's certainly dry at the moment, so hopefully it stays that way.
We wish you the best of luck.
All the best, thank you.
Well, as we heard earlier in the show, there's a big game happening at Anniesland today where GHK hosts Kelso in National 1, and making the journey up there with the Kelso team is Andrew Fleming.
Yes, welcome to Old Anniesland in Glasgow, where Kelso have travelled for their penultimate game of the season as they take on GHK. The Pointer Park club know that a bonus point win this afternoon would put them on the cusp of promotion to the Premiership after an impressive season in National 1. They currently sit 5 points ahead of second placed Ayr, who can now only claim the title in the event of a Kelso slip-up. When the sides met in the reverse fixture 5 months ago, Kelso ran out 34-14 victors, but GHK came into today's match on the back of 3 successive wins. Kelso head coaches Kevin Utterson and Bruce McNeil make just 2 changes to the starting 15 from the side which defeated Ayr 3 weeks ago, with Terry Logan coming into the front row and Angus Common starts in the Boiler House, while both Ashton Asante and Cammy Brown return to the matchday squad. It's GHK versus Kelso in a huge clash for the league leaders. Kick-off here is at 3 p.m.
Thank you to Andrew Fleming. Well, let's go to the capital then. Melrose playing at the Old International Stadium at Inverleith against already relegated Stuart's Melville. Waiting for us there is Hugh Brown.
Thank you, Stuart, and welcome to Inverleith. Well, promotion is beyond Melrose, but they will be expected to run up a cricket score against the home side, who, as you mentioned, are already doomed to drop a division next season, having only won a single game out of 20 played. When the teams met at the Greenyards back in November, Melrose hammered Stu Mel by 45 points to 13, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar or better score this afternoon. As far as team news is concerned, well, I watched Melrose back in February defeat Watsonians at Myerside. Today, only 7 of those players are in the squad. I chatted to coach Bert Grigg a few minutes ago, and he tells me he has a lot of injuries and is resting players before the Melrose Sevens. A fascinating fact about Melrose is that 14 of today's 15 starting lineup are homegrown Melrose men, with only number 8, Will Ferry, being the exception. So this is a chance for Melrose to prove they're no April fools and give themselves a boost ahead of their Sevens tournament next Saturday. Here at Inverleith, it's cloudy for the match between Stuart's Melville and Melrose. Kick-off at 3 p.m.
Yes, never let a good pun get in the way of a report. That's Hugh Brown. Thank you very much indeed to you. It's cloudy here as well at Millbrae. There is actually a 2 o'clock kickoff from earlier on today. Dalkeith and Hoyt Lindeen. That's in East League Division 2. You'll remember from earlier on we spoke to Gary Alexander and he was telling us about the difficulties that Hoyt Lindeen have had to try and get the remaining 2 games played, one against Langham, which is likely to be the 29th of April, although at the moment it's down for the 15th in a couple of weeks' time. But Dalkeith 10, Hoyt Lindeen 9 is the half-time score there at the moment. Lindeen certainly putting up a good fight in that one. Well, we're just over 6 minutes to go to kick off here at Millbrae. Dale Clancy and Robin Purdie will be your commentators this afternoon, but we'll also be checking in on all the other games today. Robin, there are some very interesting clashes out there for sure today.
Yeah, none more so than the Kelso game up at GHK there. We spoke earlier on about GHK not being able to get down to Hoyt this week, so they've got a home game in the league. But yeah, you feel Kelso, if they can come away from there with 5 points today, it's going to take something beyond bizarre to prevent them going up next season and going up as champions at that. So big game up there today. Melrose, as Hugh alluded to in his piece there, you'd expect them to put Stu Mel to bed without too much difficulty.
Yeah, shame to see some of these big clubs dropping, isn't it? We were talking earlier in the week, West of Scotland now down to the lower leagues, the Hillhead Jordan Hills, who've always done well in the past, and Boroughmuir going down there, relegated as well, and same for Stuart's Melville.
Yeah, and you look at the bottom 5 clubs currently in National 1, start at the bottom with Stu Mel, Aberdeen Grammar, Watsonians, Stirling County up to Dundee. There's some big names in there and languishing in the lower reaches of what is the second tier. But yeah, a bit of a sea change in the club game in recent years, and some of these traditionally bigger clubs are like I say, languishing.
And of course we must talk about National 2, Berwick, who are in the mix at the moment, trying to survive those 5-team drops from National 2 down to National 3. They're at Glasgow Accies today. Now Glasgow Accies were former table toppers, they're now down in 4th place, but that's going to be a tough game on the road for Berwick. But even if they don't get anything out of that game, everything kind of points to them to survive, with obviously they've got Lasswade at home, and then they've got Preston Lodge away. Preston Lodge and Dumfries are the 2 teams really which are their nearest threats. But I think when you look at the table, even if they get nothing today, they ought to get something at home to Lasswade simply because of their fantastic form. And Preston Lodge, who are pretty much behind Berwick at the moment, they're going to struggle on the last day of the season as well. So lots of interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah, big few weeks for the Scremerston men, isn't it? As you say, Dumfries and Preston Lodge just behind them in the table, and we talk about it every week, this 5-team down scenario in this particular division. But yeah, they're where they need to be in terms of the fact that it's in their hands. It's going to be a tough ask up there today at Glasgow Accies, but if they can come away with even a couple of points, then that's going to stand them in good stead for a big few weeks.
Well, Hoyt Harlequins going down even lower, East League 3. They're very much on target for promotion, along with Langham, who've already won the East League 2 title. So it's been a good season so far for Borders clubs on the whole. Obviously Kelso we've mentioned as well, who are on the brink. It's now very much in their own hands. But seeing all these promotions going on the board from the Border sides is very encouraging.
Oh, it is indeed. The Quins, as you say, Langham, Kelso, and of course Hoyt, who won the big prize and are still in the running in the National Cup as well. So yeah, Borders Rugby in a pretty good place at the moment. Gala had a bit of a blip earlier in the season. They've kind of got their act together again. They'll be looking to push on next season, as will Melrose. So yeah, in a pretty good place in the region at the moment, I would say.
So if you've just tuned in, we're just 2.5 minutes away from kick-off. It's the Millbrae clash here. They've got the youngsters out with the pink and black flags. As we heard from Stuart Fennick earlier, it's been a while since they actually had a home game, but they've got it today, and it's a quarter-final cup against Selkirk. The winners will have another home tie for the semi-final, and they'll play either Curry or Mar from just down the road. So let's start our live coverage this afternoon at Millbrae. Our commentary team is Robin Purdie and, first of all, Dale Clancy.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and welcome across to the west of Scotland as we follow the men from Philiphaugh to Millbrae, where Scott White's depleted squad will be looking to continue their journey to a first ever Scottish Cup final and knock out the current holders of the trophy and 4-time winners Ayr. After battling victory over Melrose in the Border League final and a comprehensive win in the previous round of the Cup against Musselburgh, Selkirk are forced into changes due to injury, the Super Series and also work commitments. The loss of Jackson and both McCombs and McClymondt are huge absentees for the suitors, but it does mean that they can provide some game time to a lot of talented youth players. Cam Eason, he'll start at 10 with Nixon moving to the inside centre to partner Josh Welsh. In the forwards there's an experienced and steady front row in Petty, Riddle and Shafajak, but the back row of McIntosh, Broach and Cochrane perhaps is a little less familiar to the travelling fans. There's only 5 on the bench for Selkirk as well, which illustrates their lack of depth this afternoon. The home side, who are one of the most decorated teams in the competition's history, can throw everything at this now because promotion from National 1 looks highly unlikely, with the game Kelso against GHK this afternoon having a big say in where the promotion places are going to lie. A formidable front row is starting, and it's also on the bench for Ayr. And it does mean that there's going to be a bit of a wrestle for both sides to gain control of the game. Sace and Ray are robust customers, and the instrumental McCallum at the rear of the pack will look to carry any given opportunity. McCork and Dale will try to get the backs quick ball at scrum half, and Bova and McCluskey will look to wind back the clock and light up this Millbrae paddock, lining up in the centres. Alongside me this afternoon is Robin Purdie, and although both teams in different divisions, Selkirk narrowly missing out on the playoff places, also Ayr narrowly missing out on promotion potentially to the Premiership again, it's a really difficult game to call due to the fact that Selkirk's squad is a little bit stretched.
Yeah, it most certainly is, Dale. Normally, we'd be talking about potential cup shocks or banana skins, the team, the home team's the team from the division below, and is the I don't see it like that today, to be honest. I'll look at these two team sheets, and Selkirk, for the reasons that you mentioned, are, call it what it is, they're decimated. They really are. And I would just go as far as to say, if Selkirk can win here, I'll put that on a par with their win in the league at Mar earlier in the season. This could be their biggest win of the season if they win here today.
Selkirk being led onto the field just as we speak. It's the captain for the afternoon, Luke Petty, leading the team on, and Selkirk are going to start with Matt Reid at full-back, Blake Cullen and a late replacement in Archie Penman on the wing, Ross Nixon and Josh Welsh in the centres, and Jack Hamilton and Cam Eason are the half-back pairing. A little note for Ross Nixon as well, who's making his 300th appearance for Selkirk after making his debut all the way back in 2006 against Biggar. In the forwards, Luke Petty, Bruce Riddle and Shafajak are in the front row, with Head and Turnbull in the middle row. McIntosh, Broach and Cochrane make up the back row for the visitors. The home side have got Wood, Anderson, McCluskey, Bova, Howard, Anderson and McCorkindale in the backs, and they've got Ray, Collier and Sace in the front row, Leatherbarrow and Captain Rees in the second row, and Kirk, Potty and the very experienced Pete McCallum in the back row. Looks like it's going to be Matt Reid to get the play underway here. Just waiting on the referee's whistle and instruction to get play underway here at Millbrae. The man in the middle, Callum Lazenby, is going to be taking proceedings here, and he's just put the whistle to his mouth as we speak, and play is now underway in the quarter-finals of the Scottish Cup at Millbrae. It's been well gathered in the 22 by Ayr, and they kick downfield, clear their lines straight away. A good exit, good pressure from the kick chase from Selkirk, but they made a little bit of a territorial gain there, Robin.
Yeah, they'll be happy enough with that as a start point, Ayr, but Selkirk's still got a reasonable position here. Bruce Riddle is going to be to throw in. He's Selkirk's top try scorer from hooker this season, so yeah, you mentioned before, Dale, that the pack still has a bit of a look about it, particularly the front five.
Yeah, it's a very solid front five for Selkirk, and especially in the back row as well. They've got a good personnel, and it's a good line out to the back. It finds Head, and now Hamilton finds the young Eason. Young Eason making his 7th appearance for Selkirk, starting at fly half in the absence of the likes of Jackson and McComb. James Head recycles himself round the corner and makes a couple of hard yards, and out at the hands of Nixon, who feeds his partner Josh Welsh. He's been wrapped up well by Rudy Anderson on the opposite side from the stand here at Millbrae, and it's come back on a Selkirk side again. Bruce Riddle carrying hard, manages to fight the ball and wrestle it to ground and get it back on a Selkirk side. And Cam Eason looking to take the ball to the line, finds Head, who's coming at a rate of knots to carry it forward. and the Ayr players not being able to support their body weight as they look to try and isolate big James Head as he carried forward. But it's a penalty to Selkirk, and in Cup Rugby this is going to be an interesting call. But the referee signalling at the post. Matt Reid, fancies chances here with the wind, of a seldom wind here at Millbrae.
Yeah, and exactly the right decision for me by Matt Reid there. Going to kick, if Selkirk come away from here 3-0 today, then they'll be happy enough with that. But Reid's a good kicker, and that's a good start by Selkirk. I think what they'll be intending to do today is just get their basics right and kick their goals. And just in that passage of play, some of their experienced campaigners, James Head on a couple of occasions, Bruce Riddle and Callum McIntosh all carried, but they carried with real intent, and that's going to give these young boys around them a bit of a lift.
It's going to be a first step. Going to be a stab at the post here for the penalty, but Matt Reid's going to have to pop the ball back on the tee because it's just wobbled off as he's looked to start his run up. It is a familiar look, mostly down the spine of the team for Selkirk, but as well on the Ayr side. A lot of experienced players, likes of Ray and Sace and Cameron Rees in the second rows, a really robust character. But it's the penalty attempt from Reid. He goes away pretty quickly, and usually that's a signal of confidence, and it's exactly that, as it's just managed to sneak over the bar, and it's first blood to Selkirk.
And I think Selkirk will be absolutely delighted with that great kick. He was a reasonable distance out, Matt Reid, and that'll give him the confidence. Like I say, Selkirk kick their goals today, do their basics, get their set piece right, and they could escape here going into the semi-finals.
Jack Anderson, right-footed restart, just straight down the throat of Callum McIntosh. He feeds it back to Jack Hamilton. He's a left-footed kick downfield, and he's made really good ground with that, but Cameron Rees was there, just straddling the touchline, managed to stay in field, and now Ayr looking to try and counter-attack from deep. It's a little step to try and dislodge the Selkirk defence, but Ross Nixon has got his hands all over that on the halfway line, and he managed just to isolate Jack Anderson there as he tried to strike on a counter-attack. And Nixon, he's an experienced player, but he can still play at the highest level.
Oh yeah, Nixon, I'd like to see him in the back row actually after jackling of that nature.
I've heard he can play in the back row as well.
Yeah, he seems to go 12, 6, 10, he can do it better. In all seriousness, 300 games, Dale, that is, it's remarkable in this day and age, and that puts him rightfully in the discussion, border greats of recent times, like your Graham Dodds and your Wayne Mitchells, and of course Kevin Reid, who I think's into the 400s, but Nixon's mentioned in that category, absolutely.
A good take from the line out from Andrew Cochrane, who was hoisted highest at the front of the line out this time, not opting to go to the tail towards Head, and now the maul crabbing towards the left as Ayr try to put a little bit of a squeeze on this forward drive. Still under complete control here from Selkirk. Jack Hamilton is just crouched behind the maul and now grabs the ball, gives it to Cam Eason, who fires one out the back, and Ross Nixon filters a beautiful ball into space, and it is Matt Reid who's now got the ball in his hand and now manages to spread the ball a little bit further out to the wing, but they've been just bundled into touch because Penman looked like he had a little bit of space to play with, but perhaps the ball has just snuck behind him and took all the momentum out the move. But good width there from Selkirk.
Oh yeah, and a beautiful flat pass by Nixon, cut out about 3 Ayr defenders. And again, Selkirk, you talk about the basics, their line-outs functioned well so far, and they'll be delighted.
Ayr go for a quick line-out back into the body of the Kirk there as all the players gathered at that line-out. Now they're going to have to try and kick clear and clear their lines out of their own 22, but the scrum half, Ross McCorkindale, is a very wiry character at the base of that scrum, is wrapped up as he looks to try and evade the problem area. And now Ayr having to try and steady the ship here and secure that ball under relentless Selkirk pressure, and it is McCorkindale, a box kick downfield, but just manages to get the ball out of his own 22, maybe about 10 metres or so shy of the 22 metre line. And again, Selkirk enjoying time in Ayr territory, and certainly looking to put a bit of pressure on the team in a level below them in the league.
Yeah, good kick by McCorkindale there, scrum half. It's going to be an interesting battle at 9 today. McCorkindale, as you mentioned, is a really good player. I like him a lot, but Jack Hamilton's been on fire in recent weeks, so they're going to have a good joust this afternoon, you'd think.
Bruce Riddle just waiting for the players to get into position for this line out. Luke Petty just whispering the instructions for the final time before the ball enters back into the field of play, and James Head not being lifted by his teammates perhaps in the way that he'd hoped there. The ball just went out of his grasp as Bova now breaks from deep inside his own half. The ball has just came out with that breakdown, but Selkirk not there quick enough. It's now down the throat of Penman. he's sizing up his options. He goes right, then goes left again, and he's been met by a huge challenge there. And it looked like that was Rohan Potty, who's just put the big shoulder into Penman, who tried to counter-attack from inside his own half. Now Hamilton finds Riddle, and Riddle's made a good 5-10 metres there in that carry. A very robust and physical carry there. As Cam Eason now looks for a little space in behind, and he puts a little delicate kick over the top of the defence. Ayr had to straddle that touchline, and it was Zach Howard who looked to try and keep the ball in, and it was brilliantly kicked there from young Eason, who just managed to put the winger under a lot of pressure, couldn't stay in the field of play. And that's a great territorial gain again for Selkirk.
Yeah, good decision by Eason. And talk about younger players and experienced players, that's going to give him as a young 10, a stand-in 10 today, a lift. And yeah, been really impressed by Selkirk so far.
Riddle, he throws to Head. Head's got a bit of pressure there, but he's dragged down to the ground when they're competing. Cameron Rees had his hands up there and was looking to try and make a mess of that line out, but he's illegally infringed. And you wonder what's the call's going to be here, because they've obviously had an attempt before from the penalty, but they've handed the ball to young Cameron Eason, and it's a right-footed kick, and he's squeezing that straight into the corner, and it's a really good kick from the fly half, and now Selkirk can look to strike from about 6 or 7 metres out.
Yeah, and the prolific Bruce Riddle, the prolific try-scoring machine that is Bruce Riddle, he will fancy notching up his 9th from here. Scored a couple from this range last week at home to Musselburgh in the last round of the Cup, so he'll be looking for more of the same.
Throws to the line out. It's just not been able to be gathered there by Andrew Cochrane. It was a late lift and just not able to get the synchronisation in the throw and the lift there for Selkirk, so that's an opportunity that's going to pass them by. McCorkindale again from the base of that ruck kicks downfield, and it's a similar gain there from Ayr. Still inside their own half, but it's a Selkirk ball. But again, McCorkindale having to sweep up behind that breakdown.
Yeah, a wee bit of a messy line out from Selkirk, that one. The last couple of you mentioned the timing's been off maybe a wee bit in the lifting stakes, but yeah, Selkirk exactly still where they want to be, deep in the Ayr half.
Selkirk missing the likes of McComb and McClyman as well, and then they go to a trusted character in Head there. And it's every line out that's went to James Head so far in this game has came back on a Selkirk side, and they're under a little bit of pressure there, but the cavalry did arrive for Selkirk centre field to clear the Ayr jackal out of the road. Again, some physical challenges coming in there from Ayr, able to get there. A couple of bodies there as Cam Eason is looking to just pass that ball on. It's a loose pass which McCorkindale has looked to try and snaffle on. I think Cam Eason looked to try and just escape from that physical battle, that contact that was coming towards him, and he looked to float the ball on there. Nobody was there to collect it, but fortunately for him, it's a penalty advantage coming for Selkirk, and you would imagine they're going to go for the sticks again.
Yeah, they're banging in front about 35 metres out maybe, and yeah, they'd be daft to do anything other than attempt to take it out to 6-0 here, but yeah, keep saying it, Selkirk right where they need to be and really put themselves well into this match. I see Rowan Potty's down for Ayr. I was really impressed with him against Kelso a few weeks ago. He really likes to put himself about by the looks of things.
Matt Reid is a similar attempt for his second penalty of this afternoon. Just about 10 minutes gone here. It's Ayr 0, Selkirk 3 in the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup on Borders Rugby Radio. Matt Reid with his right-footed kick, and again he turns it away pretty quickly, so he likes the look of that, doubles his tally for the afternoon, and also he doubles Selkirk. It's now Ayr 0, Selkirk 6.
Yeah, great kick again by Matt Reid, 6-0, and Ayr not really been in the game. They've had no territory at all so far, and they've also coughed up 4 penalties to Selkirk's none, so that's something that they'll have to put right.
And I was going to come back to this point as well. It's been pretty smart from Selkirk so far. They've kicked the ball downfield. They've put a bit of pressure on the Ayr team. They've not been able to escape their own goal area. So in terms of tactically, Selkirk have started this game strong. Ayr now get the play back underway, straight down the throat of McIntosh again, who's returning to this country after 7 years in North America, playing rugby in New York and elsewhere. Now Hamilton finds Eason passes the ball on to Nixon, who has to juggle it but evades the first challenge which came in there from McCluskey. and then Purdie did eventually get there, but Ayr have turned over the ball just on the cusp of the Selkirk 22. So a first attacking opportunity here for Ayr. Callum McIntosh all over McCorkindale. And now Bova just straightens up the line, sets up the contact area. McCorkindale finds Anderson. Anderson passes to McCluskey, and McCluskey's got some support there on the far side. The ball eventually does get to the hands of Stuart Collier. Ayr playing steady rugby here and asking questions of the Selkirk defence for the first time in this game, and now Purdie drops the shoulder and drives himself into that 22. The first time Ayr have been inside this area in this game. And now Seth Ray, he bounces his body over the 22 as well. Now McCorkindale, he goes one way, goes on the inside of Eason, but broaches there just to make the challenge. And now the captain for Ayr, Cameron Rees, going the blind side. Counter ruck from there, coming on from Selkirk, who try to win the physical battle. But Ayr managed to tidy that up. And Michael Kirk is the player who's risen with the ball. Now Anderson floats the ball to Bova. Bova with a crossfield kick, and there's some space over there. It's going to have to be well judged there by Matt Reid. And as he jumped for the ball, the Ayr player just got underneath him. And I think that perhaps will be a penalty to Selkirk. But Selkirk looking very stretched there, and Ayr looking dangerous and look calm in possession as well.
Yeah, they did. They don't look too rattled by the 6-0. The fact that they went down 6-0. Selkirk did get a wee bit narrow there in defence, and it looks like they're going to come back for an Ayr penalty.
Bova perhaps noticed there was an advantage there to be had, and they kicked the ball into some space, hoping to get a shot at nothing there. But it's going to come back for an Ayr penalty. Anderson is just going to stab this into the corner, and now it's Ayr's opportunity to try and do what Selkirk couldn't do before.
Yeah, and they're in a really good attacking position for the first time in this game, 5 metres or so from Selkirk's line.
Rees, he's got the ball at the line out, but it's just ricocheted to the ground, and Purdie had to sweep up and look to try and sneak his way around the corner and catch Selkirk unawares. Now Rees has dropped the shoulder, he's charged towards the line. He almost got over, but except for some desperate Selkirk defence. Now a couple of players just wrapped up there, and James Head looking to get his arms all round that ball. It is going to come back again on the side of Ayr. Rees tips on into the hands of Rudy Sace. Ayr looking for some quick ball, and there's a little gap in the defence, and Ayr look to try and duck their way through the captain, Pete McCallum, the vice captain Pete McCallum. Now Bova, the ball stretched, it's now into some space here, and it looks like Rudy Anderson is going to go in the corner, but that's desperate defence from Selkirk. Great defence from Jack Hamilton, who got across there, and as well Archie Penman. That looked like it was a nailed on try, and excellent defence from Selkirk means that they retain this clean sheet so far, but it looks like it's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, that was a gilt-edged opportunity for Ayr there. The Ayr winger really had to score that. He was a wee bit tentative in the corner for me there, Dale. Great defence. Let's take nothing away from the Selkirk defence, but winger's got to score that all day long.
Completely agree with you. I thought that was a nailed-on try. I'd almost went to the point I was going to write it down, but glad I hadn't. But it's going to come back for a penalty, and it's going to be a chance for Bova to get the first points of the afternoon for Ayr. 15 minutes gone here in the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup. Ayr hosting Selkirk. Ayr currently trailing by 6 points to 0, but you can make that now. It's 3 points to 6. Ayr 3, Selkirk 6, and the first time we've seen Ayr come to life in this game. It's taken them 12 minutes, but they've shown how dangerous they can be.
Yeah, definitely, and Bova was involved on more than one occasion just in the last 3 or 4 plays there by Ayr, and we've spoken about him before. He's a really, really good player. He can get a wee bit hot-headed, and he can blow a wee bit hot and cold, but he certainly looks comfortable in this game so far now that Ayr have grown their way into it.
Score is now Ayr 3, Selkirk 6.
Selkirk now waiting for a ball to be kicked onto the pitch, and they're like buses.
The ball, I think the penalty kicked halfway up a third tree.
At the end of the ground here at Millbrae, there's a cluster of people just trying to shake the big fir tree to get the ball back. Match balls are not cheap, so they'll be wanting to try and get this back, but from the restart it's just dribbled down the chest of McCorkindale, the Ayr scrum half, and he's now just shaking his head, looking a bit dejected. It's now Selkirk who find themselves in a good attacking position to reply straight away, and that's a great pass there from Eason, who just managed to release Matt Reid, who was running a lovely acute line. Hamilton putting a little stab kick through it. It's been covered round the back there by Zach Howard for Ayr, so he calls the mark. The advantage kicked away, and now he clears his lines downfield. Selkirk having to turn around pretty quickly, and Cam Eason has just watched that bounce. He's kept it in, and now he's feeding to Matt Reid. He's spotted a bit of space. He's opting between running and kicking. He gives it to Josh Welsh, who's got some space in front of him. He looks to go back inside, but he's been met with McCluskey, who goes low, almost isolates Josh Welsh on the ground, and it's a great jackal from Ayr as well, and a little pump in the fists as well. It was Morgan Leatherbarrow who got his hands over that ball, and now Boba going straight over the top of Blake Cullen. A quick penalty there. Ayr going with a tempo. They want to play this game quick, and they're now passing it to Rory Sace, who's a very hard man to try and get your arms round anyway. So Selkirk do well to double up on him, stop the momentum, but the referee is going to come back for another penalty to Ayr, and suddenly the home side have got their tails up.
Yeah, and the crowd are getting their dander up as well, and all of a sudden it's even Stevens on the penalty count as well. Selkirk have given away a rapid fire 4 penalties there, and again that's now something they'll have to start to have a think about. But yeah, Ayr back in this, no doubt about it.
Anderson with his aqua-coloured boots, right-footed kick downfield, just onto the 22 to the assistant referee, who's got equally hideous-looking boots on.
Yeah, you don't often see the match officials with boots of that ilk, Dale, I have to say.
A striking orange with a little black tinge on it.
Yeah, normally the World Cup's trotted out by the referees, but not on this occasion.
It's thrown to the line out from Ayr. Stuart Collier almost finds his target, but it's bounced into the hands of Shafajak, and I think him of all people will probably be glad that the referee's whistle went there, because it was almost open field to run into it. But the referee has spotted an infringement at the line out. It's going to be a penalty to Ayr, and you would imagine again it's going to be a kick into the corner for Anderson, and another thrown at the line out for Ayr.
Yeah, almost carbon copy of where we were just a few minutes ago, and Selkirk could do well here just to weather this storm, or even if they give, for me, if they give away 3 points from this Ayr sojourn into their territory, then I think they'll be happy enough, because the pressure's just starting to come on.
Collier, it throws into the line out. It was contested there, and Cochrane tried to get up to make a mess of it, but it has come back on the side of Ayr. The ball now filtering its way through the back. McCorkindale finds Anderson. Anderson has got McCluskey on an acute line, but he's almost isolated himself if Selkirk can get there. But McCorkindale does well to recycle himself, gets there quickly. The pressure is now on as Ayr try and keep the ball alive, eventually into the hands of Michael Kirk. Now working its way round into the midst of Seth Ray. Play slowed down slightly as Potty gathers the ball at first receiver and just goes it alone. The supporting players then eventually arrive as Cameron Rees just runs straight into James Head, and I can think of better places to run into it. But the loose ball is now being picked up by Cam Eason, who's almost just gathered that on the 22, but again ill discipline coming in for Selkirk, and another penalty for Ayr.
Yeah, that's Selkirk up to 6 now, and the referee's possibly thinking about, at the very least a team warning at some point, with maybe a yellow under totting up.
Anderson again just going to stab it into the corner. The lineouts have been pretty fast and furious from Ayr.
I was going to mention that before, actually. I think that's something that they look like, is almost tactical. The hooker's got a spare ball before the penalty's even been kicked.
Finds his target, Rees brings it down. The maul is crabbing to the right hand side. It looks like Ayr have got the exact movement on this maul as they'd wanted, but there's a whole host of Selkirk players in there as well. The ball eventually is to McCorkindale, and he's going to go it alone. He throws it dummy, squirms over in between 2 Selkirk players. It was Broach and Eason were there, but the wiry little scrum half is a very tricky customer and shows exactly why as he weasels his way over for a score. And it's a well-worked try from Ayr, and probably on the balance of play for the last 8 minutes, just what they deserve.
Yeah, they've more than came back into it, haven't they? And McCorkindale, the gap opened up for him. I could actually see it from here as the Selkirk defence drifted across. I wasn't sure if he was going to take it, if he'd seen it himself, but he did in the end, and he had enough power just to get there. And yeah, he's too good a player too good a player to cough up an opportunity like that.
20 minutes into this game, and Ayr find themselves in the lead for the first time. Bova is tasked with adding the extras and probably losing yet another ball in the cluster of trees at the end of Millbrae here. It's a right-footed kick. It's a slow build-up for this conversion attempt, and he just strokes that one over, curls in between the posts. It's now Ayr 10, Selkirk 6.
Yeah, and Selkirk just have to have a period, maybe just 5-6 minutes of centre field or down into their half, just to get that bit of composure back. And you don't want Ayr with what is a fairly big, sizable crowd here, just to get too much of their tails up.
Matt Reid to get the play back underway again. A right-footed kick, and he goes short this time and wants a little bit of a chase on this. And Selkirk do pretty well initially to get the chase on, but the ball eventually lands into the hands of an Ayr player. And now Cameron Rees, the captain, quite often finding himself up for that first carry off any sort of restart and rebuild of play. A very industrious second row and back row player. McCorkindale hoists the ball into the sky, and this is a difficult one for Cam Eason to deal with, and he's been almost ragdolled there by Michael Kirk and also Stuart Collier, but the referee is going to come back for a penalty. But it was well gathered by Eason, but there's no benefits from his efforts because the referee, Lazenby, is just having a little conversation with Luke Petty about the body position of the Selkirk players as they're looking to try and get over that ball. And again, yet another penalty for Selkirk, and it means that they're going to concede yet another bit of territory.
And they are, and it's a decent amount of territory. That's a really good kick deep into the 22, and yeah, that was the chat. That was the chat between Lazenby and Selkirk captain Luke Petty. So if the penalties keep racking up, I'd expect to see a flash of yellow shortly enough.
Another penalty for Selkirk, and now another line out to try and defend. Ayr go to the tail, and it's a well worked line out yet again. It's similar to the last. It starts crabbing towards the right hand side and twisting. All the Ayr players getting a bit of length in that maul. Collier does break away. McCorkindale then does find the winger, Zach Howard, working hard off of his left wing just to punch the ball up centre field. Cameron Rees yet again just carries the ball forward. It's squirmed its way out of that set piece, but it came back on an Ayr side. Play slightly slowing down yet again. The Ayr forwards working hard off the ball, giving options to their scrum half, and more so than Seth Ray, who's just found the ball and just filtered his way back towards that set piece. Now Anderson kicks the ball downfield. It is a one to chase here for Howard, and Howard is going to dot the ball down. He just managed to outstrip Blake Cullen, who perhaps got a little bit isolated. Defence there from Selkirk getting a little bit narrow, and Anderson, the fly half, noticing the space in behind, and he gave his winger something to chase. 15 points to 6 Ayr lead. Yeah, just a wee bit maybe naive in defence there from Selkirk, but Ayr varying up the game really well. That was a cute kick into the corner, but Ayr definitely looking to play with tempo this afternoon. And you mentioned the lineouts. That's definitely a thing. You know, they're kicking into the corners and the lineouts are coming in. There's no forwards having a confab about what they're going to do. The lineout, they are bang right there. The ball comes in and off they go, and Selkirk just starting to look a wee bit ragged in the face of this Ayr onslaught at the moment. Some penalties as well. Ayr have been looking to try and take them relatively quickly, because I think they're certainly wanting to play with tempo and move this big Selkirk pack around the pitch. And now Bova to add another 2 points to his tally. Right-footed kick, and it doesn't look as accurate as it did last time. Conversion not acceptable, not successful. Sorry, and it is Ayr 15, Selkirk 6.
Okay, let's go to Old Annisland, GHK against Kelso. Come in, Andrew Fleming.
20 minutes gone here in Glasgow, and Kelso are in front. The home side took the early lead through a try from Angus Cooper, but the visitors have hit back with 2 tries from hooker Charlie Marshall. GHK 5, Kelso 10.
Latest in the Scottish Cup, it's Curry 10, Mar 0, Herits Blues 7, Glasgow Hawks 5. That's the other 2 matches being played today in the Scottish Cup. In National 1, it's Dundee 12, Highland 24. That was an early kick-off. GHK 5, Kelso 10, as we've just heard. Watsonian 7, Stirling County 3. That's the big battle. One of those clubs are going to be going down at the moment. It's looking like Stirling will be relegated. But International 2, Boroughmuir 5, Preston Lodge 5, Cartha Queen's Park 0, Peebles 13, Glasgow Accies 12, Berwick 3, and in the East League East 2 match, it's currently Dalkeith 29, Hawick Lindeen 9.
A little bit of aerial ping pong back here at Millbrae. The tail of the line out there from Bruce Riddle finds Shafajak, and then Eason passes the ball to Broach, who just punctures the ball up, but Ayr managed to get their bodies all over that ball. And I think there should be a ball coming back on an Ayr side, because the jackal was impressive there. We can just see, just at the side of that breakdown, we can see the ball just kind of in no man's land, and that was hard work on the floor yet again from Ayr to force that, and they're going to get the scrum and put into the scrum centre field here just inside their own half.
Yeah, good work by their back row there. It was a strong carry, full of intent from Declan Broach. I've actually been impressed with so far. He's been looking for work, and he's been making plenty of tackles, and he carried that in hard there, but their back row just swarmed all over it, and more Ayr possession coming up.
The loss of some players in the back row, like we mentioned, like McClymont and Grant Sooty's played in the back row, Andrew McComb as well. There's a combined appearance combination of 29 appearances in the back row for Selkirk, so you can see how it's a change, well, the main change perhaps in that pack. Everything else pretty steady.
Yeah, Monroe Job obviously not around at the moment either.
Yeah, Monroe Job with his time in South Africa.
I think McClymont's a massive. McClymont got in the offside line team of the season. He's arguably the biggest miss of them all.
Yeah, McClymont is a little bit of a game changer in games like this, where he manages to win that fight on the floor. He's a difficult character. He's a bit unorthodox, if you will, but the back row that Selkirk have fielded this afternoon are perhaps a little bit more robust in terms of their ball carrying abilities. And now McCorkindale puts the ball into the line. It's come straight back on the Ayr side, but Jack Hamilton, no, it wasn't Jack Hamilton, it was Luke Petty just getting penalised there at the scrum for pulling down at the front row. And yet again, Selkirk give away a penalty, and they're going to give away some territory.
Yeah, I don't want to keep banging on about penalties, but that's the 8th in a row since Ayr last conceded one. I mean, it's almost a ridiculous statement, and that's another big Ayr kick down into the Selkirk 22, and here come the forwards trundling again towards that line out.
A line out and just inside of the Selkirk 22. They're playing from left to right on the stand side here at Millbrae, and their navy blue and tops and shorts, and matching socks as well. Ayr in their traditional pink and black have just broken away from that maul through Potty. He's been well challenged there by Cameron Eason, who got really low and just round the ankles, and Potty just fell over him, got himself in an awkward position, which allowed Callum McIntosh and Bruce Riddle to isolate that ball and win the penalty. And now Cameron Eason is going to have to try and kick Selkirk out of danger here from the penalty.
It was just a wee bit of respite there. First Ayr penalty for a while. It was a good initial break by Potty. Like I say, I've been impressed with what I've seen of him this season. He looks alive with.
Just up towards the 10 metre line now, Bruce Riddle and Luke Petty having a conversation trying to get this line out firing. It's been an area that has blown hot and cold in this opening half hour here in the quarter final of the Scottish Cup. James Head manages to gather that one at the tail of the line out this time. An area where they've found success, but it has been stolen. Bruce Riddle doing well to get the ball back on their side, but Ayr really fighting hard at the breakdown. And it's going to be a Selkirk penalty, but it's certainly a physical game, which I think when you looked at the two teams and you could see the forwards that they were fielding, it was always going to be physical. But certainly, Ayr not backing down from a team who's positioned just outside the playoffs and the league just above.
Yeah, don't think Ayr, particularly here, Ayr are always going to have a pack of forwards no matter who comes down here to face off against them, and it's probably pretty even Steven up front at the moment. Selkirk are certainly not relenting in that department, but they just need to, even just a penalty in the next 2 or 3 minutes would give them something to work with.
Bruce Riddle finds the front of that line out. A little call straight from, I think that was mostly West accents you could hear, explaining that to the referee, but Selkirk do benefit from the referee judging that as straight over the 5 metre line, and Selkirk have made good ground from the halfway, now up to the 10. Bruce Riddle breaks free, he's just 10 metres or so further on from the 10 metre line. Jack Hamilton's looking for some options and throws the ball to ground, and Cam Eason is having to chase that back, but Josh Welsh has to sweep the ball up and protect it for Selkirk. And poor from Jack Hamilton, not able to find any runners as Turnbull bounces off a few Ayr players. The advantage is coming. Hamilton spills the ball to Luke Petty, who alongside his mucker Callum McIntosh bounce the ball forwards. Hamilton slows the pace down as Cam Eason just chips a delicate ball in front. The bounce of the ball is not kind to Selkirk, but they had the penalty and they're going to come back for that. And I think this is another interesting call from. It'll be interesting to see where the penalty is positioned, because I would be going for the sticks again. However, I think Matt Reid, perhaps his last 2 attempts, did demonstrate that it was perhaps just on the range of his abilities.
I was just going to say that the last 2 looked to be on his range, and this is maybe another 10 metres or so. And I think what wind there is maybe just into his face. So I think they're going to go down the touchline here, Dale.
Cameron Eason is in conversation with Josh Welsh, and the ball is at his feet. So we're just going to wait until the play gets back underway. The referee just having a conversation with Cameron Rees, so it allows a little chance to get an update on some of the scores around the country.
Yes, it's Curry 10, Mar 3 now. Marv got a penalty back from an early Sam Leto try for Curry. Heriots Blues 7, Glasgow Hawks 5. Sam Wallace try for Heriots. Leckie going over for Glasgow Hawks. In National 1, it's currently Dundee 12, Highland 31. Highland getting a bonus point, try bonus, and if it stays that way, then they go to within 1 point of Gala. GHK 5, Kelso 10 is the latest score. Stewmel 0, Melrose 7, Connor Spence try there. Watsonians have doubled their lead. It's Watsonians 14 now. Stu Allison try adding to the one by Sutherland earlier. Stirling County 3, and quickly into National 2, Boroughmuir 5, Preston Lodge 5, Cartha 0, Peebles 20, Glasgow Accies 12, Berwick 3.
A good kick to touch there from Cameron Eason. Takes play inside of the Ayr 22. The throw into the line out is now at the tail. Head's got it. He's had to reach and claw that one back with his left hand, his outstretched left hand, which orbited round his head. But the ball has now come under control. Head's recycled himself into a ball carrying position, and Hamilton, centre field, just on the 22, finds Nixon. Nixon just bounces through the gap, and then he's found Josh Welsh, who's running an acute line. He's been hoisted into the air but brought down safely, and now Selkirk 6 or 7 metres away from the Ayr try line. Callum Turnbull now, he manages to evade the first challenge, and then he's been brought down to ground. Again, play slowing down slightly as Selkirk look to break through this very robust Ayr defence. Turnbull carries forward, the ball is squirted out into the hands of Bruce Riddle, and the tackle has meant that the ball's went back on the Ayr side, but it's not been tidied up there by McCluskey. Ayr looking to play rugby just on their own goal line, having to now revert back to their repertoire of safety to make sure that the ball is protected for their scrum half. McCorkindale finds Anderson inside his own goal area. He kicks downfield and he makes another great connection with that. Clears well out of his 22 from centre field, and it was an opportunity for Selkirk, but just a little bit sloppy at the breakdown.
Yeah, more good work by Selkirk initially, good carrying, great line by Josh Welsh, and a lovely offload from Nixon out the contact, but just that wee bit of composure lacking at the end there, and it's enabled Ayr to clear the lines, but Selkirk's still in good territory here.
Bruce Riddle over the far side. Now with the ball position just above his head, just outside of the Ayr 22. Throws it at the tail, and again James Head is the player that Selkirk opt to throw up to gather the ball, and Ayr have dropped the anchor for this maul, not allowing the nudge to come on from Selkirk, and eventually it manages to creep forward at pedestrian pace, but gathers a little bit of momentum into the 22. And Bruce Riddle's exposed at the right hand side of that maul. Ayr all over this ball now. The referee's going to have a good look at that, and that was very well defended from Ayr, because as the ball started to filter its way back and the maul was twisting round, you could see Bruce Riddle getting exposed, and the Ayr players just suffocated and killed the life out of that maul, and they get the put into the scrum.
Yeah, it started to move forward with a wee bit of pace, as you mentioned, but you're right, he was kind of bolted on the side there. Bruce Riddle in the bottom, he just got himself a wee bit exposed, but good defence by Ayr there. They knew what they were doing.
We see so many examples of really excellent attacking mauls, but more and more now it's, the defensive work from mauls is becoming a lot more impressive from teams, and that's a great example of that.
Oh, it really was, and I think you have to be up on your maul defence nowadays, or it was always a great attacking weapon for teams. Maybe some of the less flamboyant teams, that was their go-to, and you need to be able to defend it, and that's exactly what Ayr did there.
The first attempt at the scrum on the Ayr 22 is not successful, so the referee is going to bring that back, have a little conversation with the front rows as they all hunker down and clear their studs to make sure they get that purchase on the ground. The pitch here at Millbrae it looks relatively in good condition. It's a place that has seen pretty much every type of weather over the last few weeks, but it's a firm pitch for both teams to play on. It's really dry. So certainly these big heavy packs are starting to churn up the ground slightly and showing the physicality in that battle up front. It's something that we did allude to at the opening stages of this game. McCorkindale puts the ball into that. The nudges now come on from Selkirk. It's quickly away there by McCallum as Bova has got his hands on the ball. He's kicked that one out, and I think he's perhaps kicked that one out on the full. So it's going to come back into the 22 for Selkirk. Jack Hamilton gets across to the sideline with a wry smile on his face, but I think that's a let off there. You know, a good gift, if you will, from Ayr to give that to Selkirk.
Yeah, Bova there with not his best effort with a kick to touch there. I'm not sure if that was an actual kick to touch or if it was a kick pass or what it was meant to be, but almost just desserts for Selkirk there because they got a really good nudge on at the scrum and sort of squirted out the back. I wondered actually if the penalty was coming to Selkirk from the scrum, but yeah, they've got the territory again right in the 22.
McCallum at the tail of that scrum, you know, the number 8 for Ayr. He's an experienced character, so did well to mop up, but from that maul, James Head's done really well to gather that and bring it back down to ground. You can see the Ayr players trying to swim through and still latch on to their original position. And Cameron Rees is one of them. He's having a conversation with the referee about the legalities of his movements. Now Nixon, the ball's went through his hands, but Cameron Easton has just floated a lovely pass because he was out the back, and now it's into the hands of Matt Reid, who feeds Archie Penman, who bounces back infield, but he's been... The Drift defence came across there for Ayr and gathered it well. A tip on to Turnbull, who's offered himself up for a lot of carries so far in this game. Now Ross Nixon on his 300th appearance has just picked the ball off the deck and charged forward. Got a couple of Ayr players scragging at his shirt. Petty pivoting, finds Eason. Eason rolls out the first challenge, and then there's 4 or 5 Ayr players round the lightweight fly half compared to the players who were engulfing the tent. Obviously want to put a bit of pressure on the inexperienced and youthful fly half for Selkirk. The ball centre field for Selkirk, but there's an infringement there. Selkirk sealing off the ball, and you could see that as clear as day just in front of us. We've got a monitor just in front of us, and you could see there was a bundle of navy shirts just securing that ball. After the momentum was coming, they had to because they were slightly isolated, but Ayr get the penalty and they can kick clear.
Yep, and Selkirk are making enough ground with their carries, the forwards, that you just feel that with the full set of personnel here, some of these carries, some of these forays into the 22 would be resulting in a bit more than they currently are. But that's just what Selkirk have got to face today. They just have to keep plugging away.
Yeah, still 15 points to 6, and we're approaching half time. You feel that some sort of points before half time for either team could be instrumental in this game. Obviously the narrow margin of 9 points, but a penalty or a try for either side might be a big moment in this game, as off of his wing Rudy Anderson has just bundled the first challenge from the line out. And great strike move as again Cameron Rees goes forward. He's been wrapped up there by Declan Broach, who's certainly put himself about. Now Bova kicking forward and just stabs a little kick in behind the Selkirk defence into the 22. And now from when we were looking at the 22 about a minute ago on the Ayr side, we're now camped inside the Selkirk one from a couple of cute bits of play, good attack and play, picking off defenders, but Selkirk now having to throw into the line out and try and clear their lines. Yeah,
and Selkirk's line speed was maybe a wee bit lacking there from that first phase off the line out, and that's enabled Bova to atone for his earlier kicking error with a decent little grubber through that takes play up towards the Selkirk 22.
A reduced line out, nobody lifted there for Selkirk, and it's just fallen straight into the hands of Stuart Collier. He charges forward, and it was a reduced line out, nobody there, but the penalty is going to come the way of Selkirk, and that is fortunate for the suitors, but it looked dangerous there for the men from Millbrae when they gathered that ball.
Yeah, and Stuart Collier, the hooker there, he took it in absolute open prairie and was allowed to get a real head of speed up again. More pretty passive line speed from Selkirk there, and another penalty coughed up, and I think we're up to 17 penalties in this half.
17
so far.
penalties.
Yeah, 8 against Ayr and 9 against Selkirk. I'll make it.
That's a huge penalty count for both of these sides. But Cameron Eason is kicked downfield to just give Selkirk another shot at throwing into the line out, and again they go to the tail, again they go to head, and again they set up that maul and start filtering that through and getting through the sets of hands, protecting it through every Selkirk player's hands that it's coming through, and Bruce Riddle is having to break away from the side, and Potty was all over him. And they just cancelled each other out in that physical collision. And Ross Nixon now gathers the ball, looks to straighten the line, and doesn't find any gaps in the defence as Callum Turnbull arcs his way round from open field to the blind side, gets the ball off of Hamilton, who's now digging about in that set piece and just pings it off the field. And you would imagine the scrum half has taken matters into his own hands, realised that there's a little bit of danger playing from where they are, and that's going to take things for the first half to a close. And it's been an interesting game, and I'll tell you what, that's been one of the quickest 40 minutes that I've seen all season. But it's been a lightning start from Selkirk. In the last 20 minutes it was all Ayr, and you wouldn't have been surprised if Ayr had actually went down the tunnel at half time with a bigger lead. But Selkirk have dug in, got themselves back into the game, and it's all to play for in the second half.
Yeah, I think on the balance of things, even if maybe sounds a daft thing to say, it's 6 points to 15 down, but I think Selkirk are going down the tunnel reasonably happy with but reasonably happy at that kind of scoreline, because they got themselves back into it. But yeah, Ayr, in all honesty, could have been further in front. So Selkirk just need to keep, if Selkirk score first in the first half, whether it be a penalty, whether it be a try, they're right back in this. It's important that they don't panic, but Ayr just look like they've got a wee bit more about them in an attacking sense than Selkirk, I would suggest. But that's down to lack of personnel. That's down to the personnel rather than anything else. Yeah, it started with a penalty for Selkirk. They got two within 10 minutes. Matt Reid getting the two penalty attempts, and then Bova replying after a bit of pressure on 15 minutes. And then within the next 20 minutes, they got their try through McCorkindale, who managed to squeeze his way through, and then Zach Howard got the next try, managing to get on the end of a Bova kick, an Anderson kick, sorry, it was the fly half for Ayr who kicked through. And they managed to then stretch their lead, and it looked like from there it was going to be relentless, but there was a shift in that game from about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Ayr just started to come back into it. What can Selkirk do to try and turn that tide? I think there was talk bandied, or I heard the phrase 9-man rugby mooted before the game, and I think Selkirk's what you call experienced forwards are actually playing really well, and they're so willing for work. Petty, Riddle, Javadrak, Head are really carrying hard, and they're offering themselves up for work, and Head's a totem at the line out. I think they just have to continue and hope that turns into forward dominance, and if they can play that tight brand of rugby and just keep in the right territory, deep in Ayr territory, then the opportunities will come. It's a case of whether or not they can convert them.
And do you feel with the 9-man rugby as well, and you've got to look at Nixon as well for Selkirk.
Nixon's playing well, actually. Do
you feel that Ayr are almost cancelling them out in there? Do you feel like Selkirk are maybe being a little bit naive and a little bit disingenuous towards the rest of the squad, the wider players out there, and giving them the opportunity again in the game?
I think it's difficult, to be honest, because you have to be brutally honest and say that there's inexperienced members in the back line. There's youngsters, there's second team lads in the back line, and when you're an experienced campaigner in the forward, sometimes you look up and you just have to you have to play with what you've given, essentially. And I think Selkirk are just trying to play with what they will consider to be their strength on this particular occasion, which is at the very least parity up front and then see what happens. But they're playing a territory game. They've not been able to convert too much of their opportunities into tries so far, but they have to just hope that if they continue to seek the territory, then the opportunities and the tries will therefore come.
All to play for in the second half here at Millbrae. Selkirk, the visitors, are trailing, but it's certainly not an impossible task to turn it around in the second half. But as the players get their last conversations before they're going to come out for the second half, it is currently Ayr 15, Selkirk 6.
Second half coverage coming up shortly, but after the break we'll bring you up to date with the other matches being played across the country.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Hi, Nicky Walker here, Curriculum Manager for Borders College Sport. Are you passionate about sport? If so, then look out for the return of our Borders College rugby, football and hockey courses in early 2023.
Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
To commemorate the 7th anniversary of the opening of the Borders Railway, an 8 DVD box set is now available featuring the complete series Borders Railway from start to finish, plus the full hour-and-a-half documentary 5 Years On, which examines the possibility of an extension to Carlisle, plus extra features including a cab journey along the entire Borders Railway, all for the special price of just £14.99, including post and packing. You can get your copy direct from hotdisc.co.uk/shop. That's hotdisc.co.uk/shop. The 8 DVD box set, The Complete Borders Railway, is available now.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
Yes, welcome back to Millbrae, and I can tell you that with 2 minutes to go in the Scottish Cup quarter-final match at Millennium Park, currently Curry 10, Mar 17. Mar taking the lead there with a Kieran McMillan try and a Ben Johnson try as well. Remember, they were down 10-0. They fought back to take the lead now at Millennium Park, 17 points to 10 to Mar. Heriots Blues 7, Glasgow Hawks 8 is a latest score. Sam Wallace scoring for Heriots, Leckie for Glasgow Hawks. They're still playing in the first half in that one. National 1, we're still waiting on Biggar against Aberdeen Grammar. That's no doubt, we'll call it 0-0, shall we, for the moment, but I'm sure that isn't the case, but we hopefully will hear from them very, very shortly. Dundee 12. It's Highland 31. That was an early kick-off, and that is a full-time score. So a bonus point win for Highland, taking them to within 1 point of Gala. That's still in 5th place for them, but certainly hot on the heels for a top 4 finish. GHK against Kelso. I think we can go there now. Andrew Fleming.
It's half-time here at Old Annie's Land, and Kelso hold a 10-5 advantage after a cagey first half of rugby. It was GHK who took the lead through a pushover try from Angus Cooper, but Kelso responded well to going behind, with hooker Charlie Marshall registering 2 tries and driving line-out mauls. Kelso's Andy Tate was sin-binned in the closing stages after a series of team ill-discipline, but so far they remain unpunished. GHK 5, Kelso 10, and a big 40 minutes to come.
Stuart's Melville 0, Melrose 7 is the latest score. They're still playing there. There was a long stoppage. Will Owen of Melrose stretchered off, but they're back playing again now, but that will be late coming to an end for the first half there. So Melrose just scoring 7 points so far. Connor Spence try and David Colvin conversion, making that 7 points to 0 down there at Inverleith. Watsonians 21, Stirling County 10 is the latest score. That's a third try for Watsonians. Boroughmuir 5, Preston Lodge 5 is a half-time scoreline. Cartha Queen's Park 0, Peebles 32 at the moment. A wry smile from Dale Clancy next to me on that one. Cartha Queen's Park, of course, one of the teams relegated, one of the 5 teams going down from Division 2. Glasgow Accies 19, Berwick 3 is a half-time scoreline at the moment. 3 tries for Glasgow Accies, and Kirkcaldy 14, Lasswade 0 is also a latest score. And a full-time result in the East 2, Dalkeith 41, Hoyk Lindeen 9. Well, this is Borders Rugby Radio. We're live from Millbrae in Ayr, and the half-time score at the moment is 15 points to 6 to Ayr. We'll bring in Robin Purdie, who's been summarising for us today. A good start for Selkirk, of course. A couple of very solid penalties from Matt Reid, the fullback.
Yeah, decent start by Reid, decent couple of kicks. Decent start from Selkirk. They, I think, would have been delighted by that. You look at the team sheets, it's always going to be the case today that Selkirk were never going to run away with this. If Selkirk leave here with a victory, it was going to always be a smash and grab, and they're still in it. But Ayr definitely came into that, and you know, you're based on the first half evidence, you're looking at the second half, and you are making Ayr favourites for this one. But Selkirk not out of it by any stretch of the imagination.
Of course, that penalty count, particularly for Selkirk, was high. It seemed as if they've actually had more penalties, and of course they had 8 in a row, didn't they, earlier on? It's actually 8-7, but the referee obviously penalising them on quite a few occasions there.
Yeah, both teams have been heavily penalised in the first half, and it's hard to tell from here if they were all sort of justifiable or not. But Yeah, it's been a wee bit stop-start. It's not been the most fluid half of rugby, and it's therefore not been the best game that we've ever seen so far. But it's a cup tie. It's a quarter-final. There's a semi-final place up for grabs, a home semi-final place at that. And yeah, it's not a foregone conclusion, this one. Although Ayr are sort of in the ascendancy. They've scored a couple of tries. Bova's been reasonably impressive. Their scrum half and standoff have both went pretty well as well. But yeah, Selkirk here, they come for the second half, and Selkirk still right in this.
Well, just a couple of updates for you. Kirkcaldy 21, Lasswade 5 is a half-time scoreline at the moment, and it's half-time in the other two quarter-final ties. Remember, of course, that Hawick and GHK is off. GHK withdrawing, so Hawick going into the semi-final. They'll have a home match against the winners of Heriot's Blues and Glasgow Hawks, which is on a knife edge at the moment. It's Heriot's Blues 7, Glasgow Hawks 8, and in the other match at the moment, Curry were 10-0 up. It's now 17-10 to Mar, and that is a half-time score. So Ayr have come out on the pitch now, followed immediately by Selkirk. Let's go back and join our commentary team of Robin Purdie and first Dale Clancy.
Selkirk just making their ways back on to the pitch here at Millbrae. The Ayrshire men were already in a cluster in the middle of the field, just having the last conversation, and certainly a laid back look to this Ayr team. And certainly know that this is a game that they potentially should be winning based on their first half performance. Able to really grab the game by the scruff of the neck after about 12 or 13 minutes, and they lead at half time. Ayr 15, Selkirk 6. As Robin mentioned, at half time there's a home semi-final up for grabs against either the winners of Curry or Mark, and Ayr, who are the 4-time winners and current holders of the Scottish Cup, are in the driving seat to get there. They get play back underway, and Callum McIntosh and certainly come out in the second half as a different character as he wrestles and wriggles his way out of contact for the first real impact in the second half, as Hamilton hoists the ball in the air and gives Penman something to chase, and Cameron Rees evades the first challenge, goes in field, and has to be Turnbull to wrap his arms round. It's Connor Ward, a replacement in the second half, who's made the first challenge there for Selkirk. Now Ayr, through the hands of Anderson, gives it to Bova. Bova tips on to McCluskey. McCluskey evades the first challenge, and then the second, and then the third. And then he squirrels his way into the 22, offloads to Bova. He stepped back in field, and he's going still towards the 5 metre line. Ayr look like they were going to breach that Selkirk defence early in the second half, but they're going to come back for the penalty, and Ayr have come out in the second half with a lot of intent.
Yeah, and it's the last thing that Selkirk wanted. They've looked a wee bit sleepy almost the second half. It was a good breach by Cameron Rees, the Ayr captain, when he caught the kick, but it was just a wee bit too much a cheap territory, if you like. And yeah, Selkirk need to weather this, because if Ayr score first, and if they turn that into a 7-pointer, then it's a long way back from here.
Collier with the ball above his head, about 6 metres from the Selkirk line, throws the ball into the line out. It's been gathered by Rees, and then it's brought down to earth, and Collier has managed to get himself into the habitual position of a hooker at the back of a maul. He's got some protection there as well from his back row companion, Michael Kirk. Bova offers his services in there as well, as Ayr look to try and strike from close quarters. A couple of arms in the air as well, and it's a quick try there, and it's the second of the afternoon for Ross McCorkindale, who manages to capitalise on the porous Selkirk defence from them all. And just as Robin said, Selkirk could ill afford to concede a try, but they've done just that.
Long way back from here, Dale, for Selkirk. The absolute last thing they wanted, and it was just, since the kick-off for the second half, it was just a bit too easy for Ayr. It was too easy to get territory. It was too easy for them to break the line and get up towards the Selkirk try line. That maul there was just too easy, and yeah, it's a long way back potentially here for Selkirk, although they're not out of it, of course.
They're certainly not out of it, but it's going to be an uphill battle. And at Millbrae here, there's grey clouds which are hovering from as far as the eye can see above the skyline, above the trees which surround Millbrae. And I think a couple of the Selkirk players perhaps have been guilty of their heads being amongst those clouds at the start of the second half. There's going to be a replacement for Ayr as Bova takes the conversion attempt, and he's kicked that high into the sky, but it's an unsuccessful conversion attempt, as Caleb Ray is going to come on as a replacement for Ayr in the front row. It's certainly a 20-point-6 lead. 14 points is the difference, but Selkirk need to be playing a little bit more rugby in their half.
Yeah, and just as Caleb Ray comes on there, who is solid customer, Caleb Ray, but I think that, we'll look at the two benches, and for starters, Selkirk have got 7 on their bench. Ayr have got 7 to Selkirk's 5, and how much of an impact potentially is that going to have as the game wears on?
The clearance kick from Ayr doesn't make as much territory as they perhaps hoped. However, Selkirk have not been able to capitalise on these territorial positions that they find themselves in. The referee is just going to take play underway. Going to stop play. He's looking for the ball there. He's eventually found one. McCorkindale does pass it to Riddle, who's waiting to throw this into the line out. The Selkirk players all gathered and ready, and it's going to go to the tail again, and James Head is the player again who's gathered. It's a peel there from Ward. Ward finds Riddle. Riddle's given it to Nixon, who's run off his out of his centre position and offered his services closer towards the breakdown. Now James Head takes a wide pass and looks to carry it forward. Does just that as Petty and Ward now link up off the side of that breakdown. Hamilton to Eason. Eason puts boot to ball again, looks to stab a little kick forward and make a bit of a mess of this. Ayr look to gather, but there's been a knock on there. There's going to be a put into the scrum for Selkirk, and perhaps it's not setting the heather alight, but at least they're playing down here and they're being able to put a little bit of pressure on Ayr this time. Yeah,
which is what they need to do. They need to stay in this sort of territorial position in their half, and they need to hope something comes their way pretty quickly. If they cough up possession, cough up territory, and Ayr score again, then you have to think it's too much of a job for Selkirk with the personnel that we keep referring to that they're missing. The two McCombs, McClymont, Jackson, Whelans, and so on and so forth.
A whole raft of other names are available from Selkirk as well. They're certainly a depleted squad, but still got a lot of key personnel in there. A lot of players who have got an abundance of experience, and none more so than a combination of Ross Nixon and Josh Welsh, who between them have played, as of today, 463 games for Selkirk. The scrum not coming to fruition this time, so the referee is going to bring that back, but it's certainly a sloppy set piece there for Selkirk.
And a quick update from the other Scottish Cup quarter-final. Curry and March now. Curry 10, Mar 24.
And there's a turn up for the books. Mar going to Millennium and turning over the runners-up in the Premiership campaign. It certainly wouldn't be the first time that Mar have done that, because remember back to last season when they were the victors in the Premiership after finishing second in the league. So at the moment it's looking like it's going to be a bit of a West Coast ding-dong in the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup, because Ayr currently in the driving seats here, and Mar are doing their bit at Millennia as well as they put into the scrum. This time is fulfilled, but coming off his wing, Blake Cullen has just made a meal of that and just knocked it on, and it's now in the hands of Ayr. And they kick downfield. Howard just puts boot to ball. He's kicked that out in the full, and it's going to be a throw into the line out. But this is perhaps where I am completely wrong, because I did say that should Selkirk perhaps give their wider players a little bit more of a chance in this game, but you bring Cullen into the game there, an uncharacteristic error, an unforced error if you will, but that is exactly what Selkirk do not need.
Yeah, that's right. They just, by any means possible, they just need to stay for the next 5-10 minutes in their half. But yeah, Ayr absolutely in the dominant position on the scoreboard, and you refer to Mar there winning at Curry. What an occasion that would be here in the semi-final if things stay the same. Ayrshire Rugby Radio, anyway.
Ayrshire Rugby Radio might be coming to you next week, but it's been a scrappy line out again. James Head managed to get his fingertips to the ball, but Jack Hamilton just couldn't hone in on the ball as he was chasing it like a sheepdog around the ground there. It's just ended up into an Ayr hand, and Bova now, as Ayr backs are just coming on the ball at a head of steam, keeping the momentum in the move and really pressurising this Selkirk defence. But there's a gap there and they break through, and it is Michael Kirk who offloads to McCorkindale. McCorkindale's got some space outside him and he's got his fullback in support, Kieran Wood, and he evades the challenge and dives over in the corner. And that was a well-worked try there from Ayr from deep inside their own half. They managed just to pierce through the Selkirk line and link up an open play, and McCorkindale again at the complete heart and centre of that move. But it is Kieran Wood who goes over for the score.
What a wonderful try that was, Dale. You're absolutely right. Ross McCorkindale, take a bow. He is on fire this afternoon, but Michael Kirk as well. The defence parted like the Red Sea. He was only too happy. and too appreciative to gobble up the real estate. He made fully 30 or 40 metres, and then there was some beautiful inter-passing. There was a dummy in there as well, and yeah, that's as good a try as you'll see this afternoon. And yeah, keep saying it as more kind of meaty looking customers emerge from the Ayr bench, but it's a long way back from here, and it's probably a bridge too far if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, stranger things have happened in Scottish rugby in even recent weeks, with Hawick being able to pull one from the fire in the Premiership final, but they certainly didn't have this sort of deficit to overturn. Bova on the sidelines now, right-footed kick, and he certainly gets a lot of distance in his kicks, but I was going to say they're not accurate, but that one certainly was. From the touchline, Bova adds the extras and gets another 2 points, and it takes Ayr to a tally of 27 points to 6.
Yeah, good kick by Bovan. Let's not forget, Ayr went to GHA, a Premiership club, last week in the round before, and they won 40 points to 28. So it's very much the case that they are no mugs, and they're proving it here this afternoon.
Selkirk going to run a few replacements here. Scott White just signalling to the assistant referee that they're going to bide their time.
Whilst they're coming on, I'll just quickly tell you that GHK have scored against Kelso. It's 10-10 there at Old Annie's Land, and also latest score from Inverleith, Stumel 7, it's Melrose 12.
Selkirk kicks straight down the middle from the restart into the hands of Anderson, who tries to spiral one, and it bounces just in front of what will be the Selkirk's replacement, and it is going to be Fraser Eason, who's going to come onto the pitch shortly. A player who's just transitioned from hooker to hooker, from centre, sorry. So certainly a big change for him. He's waiting his time though, because Bruce Riddle has got his heels on the whitewash in conversation with Petty. Now launches the ball into line out, head hoisted. Hamilton feeds Eason. That's Cameron Eason, and now finds Callum McIntosh, who's just slung into action. Hamilton now goes against the grain, finds Eason again, who's got a little gap in defence. He manages to find it, but nobody there presents the ball back well. So Selkirk are able to get this ball, but I think the referee is going to bring that back for a head knock perhaps to Hamilton as the physios scamper onto the pitch just to make sure that the scrum half is okay. McIntosh has taken a bit of a beating as well, as Declan Broach gets across just to check that his teammate's all right, but the referee pretty hot on that to make sure that there's no ill effects to the scrum half, and that would be an interesting injury, because looking at the bench there'd have to be some sort of reshuffle to cover the 9 position. Hamilton a brilliant player, but it doesn't really look like, for the first time in many games, there's not really scrum half cover for Selkirk on the bench.
Yeah, normally they've got a wee bit of an embarrassment of riches, Selkirk in the scrum half department, but they're not here on this occasion. So yeah, Hamilton's going to struggle on, but he's a nuggety little character, and it's going to take more than that to drag him off.
Kelso back in front, it's 15 points to 10 to them. That's their third try at GHK, and Mar have extended their lead. It's Curry 10, Mar 27.
It's a couple of big games in Scottish club rugby. A couple of them, well, all three of them that we just mentioned are all affecting Ayr. The game at GHK for Kelso, a win for Kelso would perhaps take any possible chance of Ayr making it back to the Premiership away from them. And the Mar result as well is who's potentially going to be playing Ayr in the next round, unless Selkirk can turn this around shortly.
And Kelso have got their fourth try. It's 22 points to 10.
Well, Kelso certainly look like they've got things back under control on their travels to Old Annie's Land. A difficult place to go, but it's going to be Peter Wright's final game at the helm of a rugby club, his last outing for GHK at home. A team that he's coached as Selkirk managed to coach them to an unbeaten season a few years ago.
And another latest score, it's Heriots 7, it's Glasgow Hawks 13. They go in front.
The victors of that game will play Hawick at Mansfield in the semi-final, as Hamilton just filters a ball across to Josh Welsh, just straight off the scrum. The two centres just floating up, running a flat line, but nothing happening. And now a box kick downfield gives something for Archie Penman to try and run onto. McCorkindale doing well to gather that, to keep it in the field of play, but the assistant referee has just adjudged that has drifted off the field as he gathered the ball. So this is going to be a really attractive attacking position for Riddle to launch the ball into the line out.
Yeah, first mistake of the day for McCorkindale. He didn't really need to play at that, to be honest. He'd been better served just letting it run out, but he tried to. He's obviously a man at the top of his conference. He tried to keep it in to try and launch something, no doubt, but his foot was in touch when he touched it. And yeah, meaningful possession, meaningful territory for Selkirk, as good as they've had so far in the second half.
Riddle has just got the ball above his head, and I think ironically he's going to pass it again to James Head, and the ball's come down. The maul is now secure and it's formed, and Riddle has got the ball tucked under his right shoulder, just underneath his chest, and the maul's starting to splinter a little bit, and he's going to have to be protected by his fellow teammates. They do just that as the ball is now tucked and it goes forward. Selkirk's trying to burrow their way closer to that line. Hamilton now with the ball in hand. He finds James Head, who's just loitering and just looking to power his way over the line. He's met with a couple of bodies yet again as Connor Ward is there, but also Callum McIntosh peeling round the corner. Selkirk inches away from this line now, looking to try and release Cam Eason. Hamilton slow and play down. Ross Nixon is loitering with intent at that breakdown as well. Bruce Riddle picks up the ball, just congregates back towards that set piece. Luke Petty now tips on to Head. It's Shafajak, he tipped the ball onto him. It's now caught underneath his body. The ball remains intact as Hamilton now just fingers the ball back into a position that he's quite happy with. And now Cochrane, he just evades the first couple of challenges, has to get the ball back, and now Cam Eason has got the ball in hand and he's going to scamper in for a score, and the young fly half has got his try. It just opened for him and he managed to get a try there for Selkirk, and it is just what they needed at just the right time.
Yeah, really good try from Cam Eason. I've been impressed with him so far today. He's been brave in his play. He's varied it up and he's tried different things. You know, he's not been in his shell, and that's no more than, or no less rather, than he deserves. And a chink of light maybe for Selkirk.
And over the tannoy they play Cameron Eason's favourite song, which I was going to
say that's a strange choice.
I think
some might say a strange choice to use.
He picked it himself. It's a good score for the young fly half, and I think I echo your comments. I've been really impressed by the way he has looked to try and control the game. He's looked brave, and he's not been looking to take the ball away from any physical contact. Distributed the ball well and kicked from hand intelligently. Picked the gap there to go over for a score, and Matt Reid now has got the chance to add the extras, does just that, and it's now Ayr 27, Selkirk 13.
Yeah, and fair play to Selkirk, fair play. They've worked their way back into that. It was a mistake by McCorkindale that enabled them to have the line out in the position that they had it, and they've taken full advantage of it, and that's all they can do. And who knows?
As I say, stranger things have happened. Selkirk are going to have to really, really dig in here to find their way back into this game.
I think it's maybe just the thing that dampens spirits a wee bit is the fact they've got less numbers on the bench and not much experience at that at this time of the game when they're trying to claw their way in.
Yeah, I totally agree. 23, 28, 29 appearances between the personnel on the bench, which for senior rugby is not a lot. They've got a player there with no experience whatsoever at senior rugby, the captain for youth club Daniel Main. However, if he gets his opportunity, I'm sure he'll be looking to make an impression to the travelling fans who are just filtering along towards the left-hand side. A healthy contingent from Selkirk, and a great kick downfield from the box kick, but it went out in the full from Jack Hamilton. A quick apology to his teammates. He looked like he'd measured that inch perfectly. But Ayr are going to get the throw into the line out through the replacement hooker Dave Young, and they'll be looking to try and put Selkirk to bed now and really take the wind out their sails.
Yeah, and just we talk about the cheap conceding of possession and territory, and that was just an unfortunate error from the scrum half there, not realising it had been taken back in.
The maul is being protected at the back by, it is the replacements Dave Young and Craig Brown. McCorkindale now finds Bova, who's just went straight into the shoulder of Cameron Eason, who's just wrapped him up well. A forward pass there as Hamilton looks to try and get the ball back quickly for Selkirk to get play back underway. I don't know how he's going to do that because it's going to be a scrum, but certainly it's sparked something in there between both sets of players. Obviously tensions rising a little bit, the more frustration that creeps into the game for Selkirk. They're going to have to try and keep a lid on this. It's certainly good defence there from Selkirk again, as Bova, who's looked dangerous all game, was dealt pretty confidently well with there by young Eason.
Yeah, and a bit of a size mismatch between the two, but again Eason stood up there. Been impressed by Bova this afternoon. He's went well. But yeah, Eason not shirking his defensive duties there. Great play in attack 2 or 3 minutes ago for the try, and standing up well there as well, and just maybe the first wee bit of needle of this encounter, and Bova never far away when such things come to fruition.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of niggle, but nothing really boiled over. But that's the first time it looked like both sides were going to all congregate in the same area and grab shirts and scrag and make it look a little bit more dramatic than it usually is. Hamilton, the scrum half for Selkirk, just loitering at the tunnel. You can see that starting to anchor down. The referee having a little look at that scrum. Certainly not happy with the way it's going. Luke Petty, a really difficult guy to compete against in the front row. He's an experienced front row for Selkirk, really shown their experience and their benefit to this team this season. It's certainly difficult to try and nudge off the ball.
We'll just quickly go to Old Annisland. It's Kelso playing at GHK. Here's Andrew Fleming.
Almost an hour played here in Glasgow, and Kelso have the bonus point in the bag. Despite the visitors going down to 13 men and conceding a try from Angus North, they responded well with a sniping run into the corner by Nick Stingle. And just minutes later, Murray Hasty delivered a stunning crossfield kick for Dwayne Patterson to canter in unopposed. GHK 10, Kelso 22.
From that scrum, Luke Petty, who was just on his knee, has looked up at the referee and has been protesting with him, explaining that should not have been a penalty, but it is going to be a penalty to Ayr. And I think that, if you can do your maths well, which obviously me and Robin are experts in, I think this is the right choice to go for the sticks and just take it out with that two score game.
Yeah, it's a 3. It's exactly that, Dale. If Bova converts this, which he should, it's a 3-score ball game, and again it just takes the wind out of any Selkirk sails, and it just a wee bit of a sort of confidence crusher in terms of their ability to get back into this if there's 3 scores required.
The penalty attempt from Bova, it's successful. It stretches their lead now, 30 points to 13 now. Ayr lead, and there's going to be a couple of replacements for Selkirk. Lewis Martin, who's wearing number 21, comes onto the pitch, and also Fraser Eason has come onto the field of play as well in the back row, and they're going to have to really dig deep and pull this from the fire if they want to make it into the next round and make their first ever Scottish Cup final. Ayr they've already made 6, they've won 4, they've lost 2, and they're the current holders because the Cup has not been competed for since the COVID campaign. Kick downfield, well gathered by Cochrane. Cochrane finds Reid. Reid has found a little bit of space, but McCorkindale is there, just tiptoeing inside the 22. He's taking his time, he's kicking downfield to return the ball. He's not made it out of the half. He's having a little bit of a jest with the assistant referee, not happy with where the line out is going to be taken from, but it is going to be a throw into the line out for Selkirk, and Bruce Riddle is going to throw in yet again.
Yeah, I think some of the Selkirk players and a couple of Selkirk players thought maybe McCorkindale had taken that back in, but the referee said nay, and here we are again with another Selkirk line out. Riddle possibly looking for head, as he's done so often this afternoon.
20 minutes left in this game. Hamilton finds Eason. Eason almost found his brother Fraser, but he's getting caught a little bit in between no man's land there. It's a little knock on as Eason and McIntosh, the back row partnership, managed to just drift forward at the same time, but Cameron Eason just couldn't find either of them, and both the players looking a little bit despondent there after that little foray into the Ayr half. But it's going to be a put into the scrum to Ayr in centre field. Ayr have shown what they can do with the backs, and when they get a little bit of stretched defence, and you would imagine Cameron Eason on this side and Lewis Martin, the replacement, might be tested.
Yeah, you'd imagine Ayr are going to look to kick on from here, you would have thought, as the Selkirk bench empties, and some of these experienced campaigners in the Selkirk ranks are maybe going to have to go the full 80 here, which is maybe more than some of them would normally do.
This would be the last 15 game that Scott White would be involved in if Selkirk were to exit the Cup, and his tenure would come to an end after signing on with the Southern Knights for the up-and-coming sprint series. And from the scrum, it's a penalty to Selkirk, and Cameron Eason now with the ball in hand, just marking his spot in the centre of the pitch. Done in the number 10 jersey for Selkirk, a jersey which has been swapped about quite a lot this season. Not being able to find touch there, and it's been returned downfield, and Matt Reid is there and he scampers back in towards the Ayr half. He evades the first challenge and then manages to rest his position on the 10 metre line inside the Ayr half. Shivajak pivoting, finds Eason. Eason finds Head pivots as well, trying to find Eason, but Nixon is not able to gather the ball. McCluskey is kicked downfield. It's now Josh Welsh having to try and watch this ball back, but John Fulton is going to be the first player to the ball there, does get the ball down, and it looked like that's going to be a score from just in front of me. I thought that was a score, so this is going to be an interesting conversation with the assistant referee. They're having a lot of conversation, they're just having a word. John Fulton is there quickly as well. Cameron Rees telling his winger to get back, and I don't know what you think, Robin, but for me it looked like it was going to be a score, but the referee is having a conversation with Luke Petty. He's going to signal that play is going to be brought back to a certain position on the field. No try. Going to be a put into the scrum. And Stuart Cameron, as eagle-eyed as ever, he called that pretty quickly. The confidence of the man, able to see that was not going to be a try, and that's a little for Selkirk. But again, just showing the little bit of disjointedness in attack, the changes in personnel is perhaps illustrating in the cohesion of the attacking play that Selkirk are exhibiting.
Yeah, and they're having to roll the dice now, Selkirk, and there's flicks out the back, and players that are not used to playing each other, and that kind of misunderstanding, if you like, you don't imagine happens if the Jacksons and one player we've not mentioned this afternoon, I've not mentioned, it was Cottrell. Cottrell's not here because he's at the Southern Knights, but that kind of stuff potentially doesn't happen if the Jacksons and the Cottrells and the Aaron McCombs are in there.
Selkirk trying a double pivot there in the halfway line, and it was Shafajak and Head trying to act as the pivots, but when they were recycling round, just not able to get that ball released, not able to find that player to stretch that play, which has resulted in a put into the scrum for Ayr. 5 metres from the Selkirk line. The nudges come on, it's quickly out. Cameron Rees has got the ball. Bova straightens up, he goes through Nixon, he then goes through Eason, and Bova is over. And you're going to have to say now, with 66 minutes on the clock, 36 points to 13, Ayr can start planning for Mar.
Yeah, it's, as we said before, if it is Mar, what an occasion it's going to be, and you wouldn't write off Ayr in this kind of fettle against Mar, to be honest. And Bova, big player for Ayr, he's had a big performance today, and that try is no less than he's deserved, and he's going to try and turn 5 into 7 as another burly looking Ayr replacement enters the fray.
That burly looking replacement is Cameron Muir. A couple of other players were loitering as well, with Jamie Chalmers and Conrad Lynch on the sidelines just waiting to come on. So the bench now emptied for Ayr, a bench which was littered with players. They've got a full squad of players. Selkirk not being able to exhibit the same. Bova thumps the ball through the Kinlan, adds the 2 and takes his personal tally to a very impressive figure this afternoon. A couple of penalties, 3 conversions and a try, and he's certainly contributed to the Ayr cause in this quarter-final of the Scottish Cup. It's now Ayr 38, Selkirk 13, and Matt Reid is going to have to try and kick Selkirk downfield into this game, into the hands of McCorkindale. And he clears downfield. It's a good clearance kick from the scrum half over the halfway line, and again Ayr being able to clear their lines pretty quickly.
Yeah, another great kick. It's all going Ayer's way at the moment. Selkirk absolutely battling as manfully as you like with what they've got. They're not letting the heads go down. They're going to continue to keep plugging away, and you'd expect nothing less. But for all that the scoreline doesn't make for great reading, it's a gutsy effort from Selkirk.
It's another scrappy line out there. It's not went to a Selkirk. They just didn't even look interested in lifting there, to be honest. A little bit of lack of communication, and now the box kick downfield has went out inside the Selkirk 22. The attacks keep coming, and correction on what I said the scoreline was. I'd given Ayr an extra point for some reason, but it is Ayr 37, Selkirk 13, and it certainly looks like there's still a bit of time for some scores for either side to be added to this scoreline.
Yeah, it could be more to come from Ayr here. They're admittedly it's a Selkirk line out, but it's very deep in their own 22, and they'll need to exit fairly swiftly here and fairly efficiently.
Line out to Head again. He dummied to try and drop it off the top, but He brings it into the maul. It's creaking and it's twisting forward. It's well protected at the back there as Hamilton finds a little bit of space and tries to twist them all so they're closer to that gain line so they can try and pick off the holes in the defence. Eason is having to act as scrum half, and Head picks up off his toes. The referee was in a good position to see if that was going to be a knock on, as Cameron Eason again looks to try and play scrum half, but Hamilton gets there in time. He kicks downfield. Fulton is there and juggles off his chest but comes under his spell eventually as he finds Kieran Wood at fullback. He's been dragged down by Cochrane, centre field. Bova is there, but there's been a knock on as well. So there's going to be a put into the scrum for Selkirk centre field, and you know it's now just a matter of playing some rugby for the suitors.
Pride is at stake. Of course, they're not going to progress in the cup. They've been reasonably well beaten today by a better side, but you know, as it stands at the moment, they can leave with their heads held high with the amount of sort of heart that they've shown, but they won't want this to turn into a 50-pointer, of course. No, 37-13 it currently stands, and other games in the Cup and National 1 are underway, and we can go to Stuart with an update.
Yes, it's still Curry 10, Mar 27. Glasgow Hawks have extended their lead at Golden Acre. It's Herrick's Blues 7, Glasgow Hawks 20 now. Into National 1, and the game which was played earlier on today, Dundee 12, Highland 31 is a result. It's GHK 10, Kelso 25 now, a Murray Hasty penalty to add to their 4 tries from earlier. Stewmel 14, Melrose 19. Ewan Lindsay has just scored a try to put Melrose back in front again. And how about this one? Watts Range 24, Stirling County 29. They're the favourites to go down, of course, as Ross Nixon comes off, ending his 300th appearance here at Millbrae. There's a couple of interesting National 2 scores at the moment. Burramuir 5, Preston Lodge 24, and that's probably a bonus point, I think, for Preston Lodge. They're, of course, on the coattails of Berwick, who are losing at the moment 31-15 and are down to 13 men with a red and a yellow.
Cameron Easton with the ball in hand. He finds Martin, who's coming off his wing from that scrum. Now directing traffic is Hamilton. He finds Connor Ward with his blank number on the back of his shirt. He drops the shoulder and just nudges his way towards the ground. A high box kick is under the throat of John Fulton. He's got Archie Penman for a little bit of company as he wraps round his waist like a belt and just is dragged along by his opposite man. McCorkindale, it's actually Kieran Wood playing scrum half there. He finds Anderson. Bova again stretching the field of play. Ayr being able to really stretch this defence. There's having to be a combination there of Reid and Eason to drag the Ayr players down. Cameron Rees now, the captain, charges forward. Craig Brown, the replacement, with the black tape round the top of his head just to protect his ears and protect himself in contact at the breakdown there. And now McCorkindale. Craig Brown is just bundled back there. It's come out the side. Fraser Easton did well to gather that. Head finds Josh Welsh. Josh Welsh is kicked into space, and now it's a foot race, and it's a great kick there from Welsh. He finds some territory. There's nobody back there for Ayr, and it's just bounced off, and it's going to be a line out for Ayr, but with 7 minutes to go, at least it's a little turn in fortunes for Selkirk.
Yeah, they're just doing all they can. Selkirk, whether it's to defend with their lives or hoof it down the park, it's, as I said before, it's manful stuff, and again they've got a decent bit of territory here deep in the Ayr 22 as the Ayr go to throw in this line out.
It's here to throw in. It's Dave Young. He finds his captain, and again the Ayr maul is looking to try and twist round. James Head has been asked to just vacate himself from the maul there. A slight disagreement with the referee. Luke Petty having a little chat as well, and he's been told to get back, but and certainly James Head really disappointed with the decision there. Felt like he was in a legal position, but Anderson can now kick downfield from the penalty, and I've been impressed with his kicking as well this afternoon.
He strikes it well from hand. He strikes it well from hand, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been a very good kicker. He's made good territory, and I think there was a phase in that game, probably around the 20-minute mark, when Ayr started scoring tries, that it was his kicks that put Ayr in those positions, and he's really turned the screw in the second half. His distribution has been pretty impressive too. And now Dave Young, and stepping up to the line, goes to throw into the middle, but eventually does come to Shafar Jacques. It's a knock on from Ayr, but Selkirk do have the ball. Hamilton He's got Luke Petty. Luke Petty looks for the tip on, but not needing it this time because Riddle and McIntosh are there in support. Hamilton finds Eason. Eason has got Lewis Martin coming off his wing, and as he manages to break through Bova, but the momentum was stopped there from this flailing arm. So the gathering players there from Ayr managed to stop Martin making any inroads in the defence. Hamilton looks left, then looks right, finds Head. Head looks to tip on, but it's been picked off there. And now Ayr are going to intercept this. And it is looking like it's going to be Zach Howard who's going to streak in for a score. And he's going to go in the corner, dot the ball down. And that was as easy as you like from the winger. Brilliant play from him over on that left-hand side. He just watched the movement, watched the ball filter across the back line, picked it off. And then, as all good wingers do, scampered in for a score.
Showed a turn of pace, didn't he, Zach Howard, for his second of the afternoon, and you read that brilliantly. Selkirk just trying to play from everywhere now, forwards in the backs, strewn across the field, not that great a shape to their attacking play as they just try and kind of run things from everywhere, and he picked that off and he scampered in.
That's another score there for Ayr. It's been an impressive afternoon from the Millbrae men, because we did think it was going to be pretty tight. We started Ayr as perhaps marginal favourites, but it's been a good outing. It's been an awesome afternoon at Alloway for Ayr, and 42 points to 13 is some scoreline.
Great alliteration there by our good staff, I have to say.
I was going to try and put alliteration on the end of that, but I wasn't able to. As Bova strikes it in between the posts, not able to align it this time, it just ghosts in front. Not able to add the extras, but we'll let him off for that. He's had an impressive afternoon. 42 points to 13 with about 4 minutes to go here. And Selkirk empty the bench. It allows Matthew Francis to come on to make his 7th appearance. And there's going to be a debut as well for Daniel Main, who's the current Selkirk Youth Club captain. Wearing number 19, he's going to get his senior debut.
Yeah, good to see the youngster coming on. And a couple of warriors for Selkirk today coming off Svadrak and Callum McIntosh. McIntosh very much playing out of position today, and these are older stagers, if you like, and they've put in a serious shift for the Suitors.
Pass from the base of that ruck, just on the cusp of the 22, and again Ayr keep coming. It was Caleb Ray this time, just managing just to nudge his way through the defence. McCluskey finding Fulton. Fulton puts it on the toe. It's going to be gathered almost by Matt Reid, but just bobbles and ricochets as I think Archie Penman's perhaps taking a sore one in his valuables, and he's managing to get back into position, both on the field and elsewhere. But it's going to be a put into the scrum for Ayr, and I think Selkirk perhaps now will just be looking to try and see this game out. Ayr, I think, will be looking to tally up and get another score, because they look like they're exuding confidence and certainly able to score from anywhere on the field.
I can confirm that Glasgow Accies go top of the table on National 2, because obviously Falkirk and Newton Stewart weren't playing today, so Glasgow Accies win against Berwick by 31 points to 15 means that Berwick get nothing out of this game. But more worrying, I think, for Berwick is the fact that Preston Lodge at the moment are leading Boroughmuir 24 points to 12, and if that remains, then they will go up to 46 points, which would be the same as Berwick. Berwick just ahead on points difference, so it's getting very congested in the middle of National 2 with 5 teams going down. Latest in the Scottish Cup, it's 42-13 here, of course, at Millbrae. Ayr beating Selkirk, the only National 1 team who can get into the semi-finals. Curry 10, Mar 27, and it's Heriots Blues 14, Glasgow Hawks 23. So Glasgow Hawks, it looks like at this stage, unless Heriots can mount a comeback, they will be going to Mansfield Park to take on Hawick next week.
Ayr certainly doing a good job of defending their Scottish Cup. Obviously, they won it back in the 2018-19 season with a narrowly defeated Heriots 27 points to 25. They've also beaten Melrose on 3 occasions at Scottish Rugby's HQ. They've never won a final by more than 4 points, but in Cup Rugby it's just a matter of outscoring your opponents, and certainly this afternoon they have done just that job. There's going to be a penalty from the scrum to Selkirk, as Rudy Sace is just ate a little bit of turf as he found his way towards the ground. So Selkirk are going to probably see out this game with the ball in hand. Cameron Eason with a delicate kick downfield. Not made much in the way of territory up to the 10 metre line. But in terms of the youngsters, Robin, it's been an impressive performance from Ayr. Let's not get away from that. McCorkindale's been good, Bova's been really good. I think Potty and Kirk in the back row have been good, and also Collier at hooker. But is there anyone particular that's shown up for Selkirk that you've been pretty impressed with?
Oh, I think nobody's stood out massively in terms of quality, because Ayr have not allowed them to play, but in terms of putting in a shift, you look at Svadrak, Luke Petty, Bruce Riddle in the front row have stood up massively. James Head, Callum McIntosh said before, playing out of position, and young Eason at 10, like I say, has been brave. So there's plenty of players that can leave with their heads held high, and if I'm Scott White, I'm not overly despondent with the effort that's been shown, that's for sure.
Bova with the ball takes it into Fraser Eason. He does well to rip that, but it has ended up in the hands of an Ayr teammate who was just on Big Bova's coattails. And now Kieran Wood, who's playing scrum half, he finds Anderson. Anderson finds McCluskey over on that far side, and he's doing well to stretch this defence. It's been kicked downfield from Howard, who's now chasing a hat trick, but Hamilton is there. Hamilton then throws a big ball to Cameron Eason. He now kicks downfield, finds a bit of space. It's an ugly kick, but it's trundled in the right position. It's been well done, well gathered there by Rudy Anderson. He just managed to put his hand on the ball and essentially stop it going off the field of play. Fraser Eason has wrapped up Bova. Bova's got the ball back on an Ayr side. Wood finds Brown, and Brown is streaked out of the first challenge and the second. He's playing with his head up. He's looking to find the offload, does just that, and he manages to find an Ayr player. He's looking to try and get his arm free, not able to as James Heads tries to get himself back. It's now been stretched across the Ayr back line and almost in the hands of Howard, but not able to gather it, and it's just squirmed through his fingertips. And Ayr, when it looked like they'd stretched the Selkirk back line yet again, and just not able to capitalise on that space and get that score. But again, it's very, very physical from Ayr, and they're just managing just to puncture little holes in the Selkirk defence.
Yeah, there's no letting up, is it? They sniff blood, and I think Zach Howard on that far side will be fancying a hat-trick. A lot of the play coming down his way now, and all credit here. This was never going to be an easy task for any team. Even Selkirk coming down with a full quota of players, full first team is going to be a difficult ask down here, and Ayr have been impressive this afternoon. They've got some experienced boys in there as well, and they're going to welcome whoever they welcome, whether it's Marr, whether it's Curry, and yeah, you don't fancy coming down here.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think that even with the players who perhaps are missing from Selkirk, you do have to question what type of game that would be as well, with the form that Ayr are in it at the moment. It's perhaps their last opportunity of any sort of success this season. The line out is inside the Selkirk 22. It's been gathered by Head. It's then been kicked downfield by Hamilton with a lengthy and high box kick. Eason was well there, and then John Fulton has just jumped on the shoulder and just inserted himself into this phase of play. Managed to just inject through that Selkirk back line. Wood looking for that ball back inside, and it is a great move. Fulton's there in support. Howard gives him the ball, and I think that's going to be the icing on top of the cake there. Fulton just streaks in for another score. It was well worked by Ayr. There was perhaps, if I'm a sceptic, there was perhaps a hint of forward pass from the breakdown, but great work, great awareness from Wood to release Howard, and then Howard found his winger teammate John Fulton for what will be the final score of this game. And you'd imagine the conversion attempt will just take it shy of 50 for Ayr, but it's a good afternoon's work for Ayr.
It certainly is a good afternoon's work, and they've been really, really impressive, and that was another great try to round things off. They're playing like a team with a lot of confidence, and why not? They've racked up 40 points in consecutive weekends against Premiership opposition.
.21 points, I think that is, from the boot of Bova, and it's a successful conversion there. So another one to add to his tally, and there is going to be playback underway because there's an injury on the pitch. So I think we are going to be playing a final few minutes. The clock, which is just across from us, it does read that it's 83 minutes, but there is certainly still a little bit of time to play here at Millbrae. But Ayr certainly have cemented their place in the semi-finals, and there's still a lot of important games from around the country, and we can get an update from Stuart.
Yeah, it's Ayr 49, Selkirk 13 here, Curry 10, Mar 27 is the latest score in the other quarter-final. Heriots Blues 14, Glasgow Hawks 23. Don't forget Hawick at Mansfield Park next week. Await the winners of that one. In National 1, it's Dundee 12, Highland 31. That's a full-time result. GHK 10, Kelso 25 is the latest score. Keith Melbourne has received a red card. That's 2 yellows for him. Stumel 21, Melrose 38, Watsonians 24, Stirling County 29 is the latest score. In International 2 we go. Boroughmuir 12, Preston Lodge 31, Cartha Queen's Park 17, Peebles 35, Glasgow Accies 31, Berwick 15 is a full-time score, and Kirkcaldy 28, Lastwade 12 is a latest score.
Matt Reid, the halfway line, has hit this one a little bit shorter for Celtic to try and contest, and there's a melee of players there that just come together and just end up in a big bundle as Hamilton finds Riddle. Riddle has been met with a couple of challenges there, as well as Ayr double up on Celtic's top try scorer. Hamilton trying to get the ball away. He's just going to win the penalty, take it quickly. He's then going forward at a rate of knots. He's managed to evade the first challenge, but eventually Rory Anderson gets back and wraps up the scrum half, who sniffed an opportunity there. Ward runs into Craig Brown. He just managed to wrong foot the tower in second row. And now Cochrane just runs it straight into Rudy Sace, a very hard man to try and win the physical battle against. Now Cam Easton has put a lock stab kick through. It's been gathered by Matt Reid. He's in, recycled it onto Cam Easton, who's just been stopped short. And great play from the fly half, but the ball has been recycled. It has been Callum Turnbull who's got there quickly, but he's knocked on. John Fulton is there to try and sweep it up, but it is a knock on from Selkirk. Almost an excellent try. And the referee's had a final look at his watch. There's still time to play, but what a try that would have been.
Oh, that would have been the try of the day. And again, young Cam Eason, beautiful play by him, the little grubber and then the wraparound, and been impressed with him this afternoon.
He has been a bit of a shining light for Selkirk, I must say. It's been really good to see him for a full 80 minutes. He's had flirtatious games with the first team. Obviously was involved in the wider squad last week, but not able to make the match day squad. So it's been a full 80 minutes for young Cam Eason, and you'd say perhaps one of the picks of the bunch for the suitors. He's shown his initiative and his innovation at the fly half position. Putting the ball to boot there and looking to try and link up with Matt Reid, and almost came off there. But some desperate defence from Ayr, showing exactly what it means for them to stop Selkirk from scoring another try. Selkirk with only one try this afternoon, and it was from Cameron Eason. But from the scrum, it's going to be a penalty. And Jack Hamilton's having a conversation with Bruce Riddle. He's now got the ball in hand, and it's going to be old school from here. 6 metres out, a tap of the ball. He's now passed it. He's then found Connor Ward, who's looked to just burst in between a couple of challenges. Selkirk going round the corner, just in the shadows of the posts here at Millbrae. Selkirk slowly just orchestrating proceedings, diving over the line there, looking to stretch and get the ball over. But the referee is determined that has been held up. He's signalling that it's going to be a goal line dropout. He's having a little look at his watch as well, so I don't know if we maybe need to check his battery in his watch, because it certainly looks like it's been a longer second half than it has been the first. There's not been a lot of stops in play, but we have got a little bit of time to play here. But again, Selkirk just not able to really penetrate this really stubborn Ayr defence.
Yeah, they were in a good position there, and as I say, they've battled bravely, and it was almost a ninth of the season for the prolific Bruce Riddle, but wasn't to be on that occasion. But here they come again.
Cameron Eason feeding back inside, and Lewis Martin was there. Hamilton centre field again, looking left, then looking right, keeping his options open, and the replacement who's come back onto the field, Callum Turnbull, has just been held highest there. He's got a whole cluster of pink and black jerseys surrounding him. The Selkirk players looking to try and get low and dig in and drive their teammate forward. But it looks like that in terms of the contact zone, Ayr have certainly won the battle there. The referee having a little look, seeing where the ball is. He's given a shrill of the whistle. Selkirk took the ball in, and that is going to be the last play here at Millbrae. Callum Turnbull's carry into the heart of the Ayr defence perhaps illustrates what difficult an afternoon it's been here for Selkirk, not being able to really breach that Ayr defence apart from the one Cameron Eaton try. There's been tries for an abundance from Ayr. There's a try from Cameron Wood, there was a couple from Zach Howard, one from Jamie Bova, two from Ross McCorkindale, and then the final one from Ayr was from John Fulton after some great play and link-up play through Kieran Wood and Zach Howard. And Ayr certainly have put Selkirk to the sword, and they've set up what is a mouth-watering semi-final clash against their near neighbours Mar in the next round.
What a great occasion for Ayrshire Rugby. That is going to be the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup, and two very deserving teams. Ayr on the basis that they've seen off Premiership opposition 2 weeks on the trot, and Mar have gone to Malani Park no less this afternoon, and by the sounds of things put on a performance and come away with a great victory. So yeah, what an occasion it's going to be down here next weekend.
Yeah, the semi-final games are up and coming, and still obviously a lot of league action to be played as well, but we'll get an update on the final scores with our roving mobile human version of Twitter, which is Stuart Cameron, who's keeping up to date with all the scores from around the country. But overall this is the culmination of Scott White's tenure as Selkirk head coach. It comes to a little bit of a crushing end and a disappointing end, because it was a real opportunity for Selkirk to get into the final, their first ever Scottish Cup final, and it's been a bit of an abject performance. Certainly personnel has played into that as well. However, Ayr, when they're in this sort of form, they're certainly showing that they've got the credentials to get back into the Premiership. There has been a seismic shift in Scottish rugby, and certainly in the Super 6, but the teams likes of Ayr and Heriots and Melrose have dealt the best with it, and Ayr certainly showing that they've got the capabilities to go up a notch. Yeah, the Ayr club team are upwardly mobile, aren't they? They've sort of found their feet, if you like, as you say, after Super 6. And you mentioned Scott White there. Scott White absolutely can leave this club with his head held high. He leaves them in an awful lot better place than he found them. They've finished 5th in the league this season. They have won the Border League. They went reasonably far in the Cup. And after last season, I think that represents a good campaign, and they've come down here today. I'm going to be honest, I'd seen this result coming when I seen the team sheets and seen how depleted Selkirk were, and I think they've played with plenty of heart today. With this magnitude though, did you see this size of defeat coming for Selkirk? If I'm being honest, Dale, I thought it would be reasonably comfortable for Ayr. That's no slur on Selkirk. They're just so depleted, and Ayr are rampant. Ayr put 40 odd on GHA last week away, so I don't know what it says about Kelso, who's seen off Ayr, with a relative degree of comfort. Well, maybe not as far as that, but what does it say about Selkirk, who've put this Ayr team to the sword on a couple of occasions this season? Yeah, I think when I looked at the team sheets and I seen the squads being announced, it did for me look like it was going to be a little bit of a tighter battle, and perhaps I was looking at the players like Sepeti, Riddle, Shafajak and Head in in that tight 5 area, and certainly Nixon and Welsh in the centre pairings, but perhaps littered about them, this is going to be a big learning curve for the suitors to really learn from. Know that Millbrae and these places, if you want to win trophies, are not easy places to go, but certainly there's positives. Let's look at young man Daniel Main. He's made his debut. He's coming. His first game is obviously a heavy defeat, but he's been able to come to Millbrae and get his debut. And there's been performances. The first time the brothers Fraser and Cameron Eaton have played first team rugby together. The youngsters there, Blake Cullen and Archie Penman on the wing. So there's young players there that are going to be the nucleus of this squad going forward. But sometimes you've got to lose these games to become a better player and a better team. 100%. You learn more in defeats like this than you do in easy victories. And I was on the end of a cricket score down here as a player, and some of these boys, they won't be they're not the first, and they're certainly not going to be the last to be on the end of a reversal down here. And it's been it's that mix of experience, but it's the inexperience that's been Selkirk's undoing today, and you don't gain experience by playing until you play in these types of games, so they can only gain experience from it. But yeah, Ayr deserving victors today, but Selkirk at no point through in the till. It was certainly a really big, impressive second half showing from Ayr again. Tries from Kieran Wood, Jamie Bova, 2 from Zach Howard, 2 from Ross McCorkindale, 1 from John Fulton as well, to reply to the 1 from Cam Eason. And it is a huge victory, 49 points to 13, and it sets up what is a mouth-watering clash in the next round of the Scottish Cup, if you're a fan of West of Scotland rugby, because it is going to be Ayr versus Mar in the next round, and that is going to be an absolute humdinger in the Scottish Cup. But for Selkirk, their journey to a first ever Scottish Cup final is over, and Scott White's tenure as head coach of Selkirk is also over. But Ayr, they march on in the Cup. They are still the holders, and their grip is still on that trophy until perhaps Mar. I've got something to say to that about that in the semi-final, but it finishes here. It is Ayr 49, Selkirk 13.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
To commemorate the 7th anniversary of the opening of the Borders Railway, an 8 DVD box set is now available featuring the complete series Borders Railway from start to finish, plus the full hour-and-a-half documentary 5 years on, which examines the possibility of an extension to Carlisle, plus extra features including a cab journey along the entire Borders Railway, all for the special price of just £14.99, including post and packing. You can get your copy direct from hotdisc.co.uk/shop. That's hotdisc.co.uk/shop. The 8 DVD box set, The Complete Borders Railway, is available now.
Hi, Nicky Walker here, Curriculum Manager for Borders College Sport. Are you passionate about sport? If so, then look out for the return of our Borders College rugby, football and hockey courses in early 2023.
Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
Okay, welcome back to Millbrae, where it's finished here. Ayr 49, Selkirk 13. In the other cup matches, Curry 10, Mar 27. After being 10-0 down, fought back to get 27 unanswered points. They will be coming here to Millbrae next Saturday. And Glasgow Hawks will be going to Mansfield Park. They beat Heriot's Blues today at Golden Acre by 23 points to 14. Well, the victorious captain, Cameron Rees, is now with Robin Purdie.
Cameron, first of all, congratulations through to a Scottish Cup semi-final, and last week probably gave us an indication you went up to Premiership opposition and put 40 points on a team up there, and that must have given you a lot of confidence coming into this one today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know the two competitions that we were in are Nat 1 and the Cup, and Nat 1's probably out of our hands. We've got to rely on other results right now, so we said at the start in training that there's everything to play for in this. It's us that can win it, it's us that can lose it, so that's some of the heart the boys put on out there was outstanding. And to go against Premiership opposition, I think we've shown what we can do as a squad. We had extended bench this week, so a lot of boys, we had the twos captain playing for us, we had a lot of boys coming up and they didn't look out of place. Everyone put in a brilliant shift.
And I guess it gives a team heart when you see the opposition, and you know they were a wee bit depleted today, Selkirk, so that must have given you confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really look too much into the teams that we're playing because we can't affect anything that they do. All we want to do is play our style of rugby, especially here at Millbrae. It's a bit of a fortress for us, so can't wait to get the local rivals down next week.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that Mar here next week, what an occasion that's going to be for Ayrshire Rugby semi-final in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last few years Mar have probably been one of the form sides in the Prem, and we're showing what we can do after all the change with the Super 6 and then the club team coming up strong. I mean, we've got a massive squad, everyone's really hungry. There's boys that can't be involved through injury, illness, other reasons, so every boy that's pulling on the shirt's doing it for those boys.
And today there was some of the experienced campaigners in the team really stood up, really put themselves about. You know, Jamie Bova, Ross McCorkindale, two particularly impressive performers today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's testament to the squad that Ross McCorkindale, that you mentioned there, he's 22. We're such a young squad, got so much to build on. Got a lot of experience on young shoulders, so I mean it just looks really positive for the future, but we're not looking any further forward in 2 weeks.
And of course you guys are the cup holders, you've won it on numerous occasions. What is it about that particular, the love affair if you like, between that particular competition and this club?
I don't really know, you can just see it though, like having the full squad, family, friends, everyone down. Like, you can hear when we get a roll on, you can really hear them, and it just gives you that 16th man. And as I say, when you can see boys coming off the bench getting first class experience, sort of fringe boys in the squad, it's just great to see.
Mar coming down here, it's going to be a great occasion, and we wish you all the best for it.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
As we're going to try and call Ross Nixon over. He's about 10 metres away from us at the moment, so we'll try and grab him. He's totally oblivious at the moment with his back to us, but I'll give you some score lines that we have at the moment, because in National 1 it's ended Dundee 12, Highland 31, GHK 10, Kelso 25 is a full-time score. 5 points for Kelso. That puts them 10 points clear at the top of the table. It's ended Stuart's Melville 28, Melrose 43, and Watsonians 24, Stirling County 29. Boroughmuir 17, Preston Lodge 31 in National 2. Also in National 2, Cartha Queen's Park 17, Peebles 35, Glasgow Accies 31, Berwick 15, and Kirkcaldy against Last Wade. The last we'd heard it was 28 points to 12. We'll try and clear that one up for you very, very shortly. But Ross Nixon has now found his way up to the back of the stand at Millbrae, and he's talking to Robin.
Ross, first of all, commiserations on the result today. Coming down here with a depleted squad, it was always going to be a tough ask.
It was. It's been a long drag of a season. I think I've accumulated a lot of injuries just the last few while, and then guys have got farming and obviously other commitments and stuff. And the boys that came in today, they stuck in well, but it is obviously a big step up for what they've been used to in that, and it was obviously a step too far today. In the first half, we were all right. We had a few chances that probably, if we'd taken them, would have been in the game, maybe slightly ahead half time. It might have changed things, might have got the confidence up a wee bit. But when they started running a couple of tries, that first and after the break, it broke the spirit a wee bit of the boys, and they just kind of ran away with it at the end. It's disappointing. It'd be nice to finish the season like on a bit of a high, because that's shite. But what do you do? Like, you can't imagine boys out anywhere, and the boys that came in done a decent job.
That's it. I was going to say you must be pretty proud of the young guys that stepped up today, but also some of the older heads, if you like, some of the guys in the forwards in particular, putting in nigh on a full 80 minutes. James Head, McIntosh playing out of position. It appeared from here. The scoreline obviously went against you, but it appeared to be a gutsy effort nonetheless.
Aye, it's been the same all season. The guys stick in, they try right to the end. But as you say, a lot of them were goosed. It's been a long season. There's boys patched up and field just to play games, and they're just scraping through. Headache done 75 minutes there, and if he had his way, he'd probably be doing 40 and having enough at half time. But we need these guys. They're the core of the squad, and they make a massive difference. They keep the boys going round about them, because when you do lose them, you lose a bit of experience, and the guys kind of look at somebody else to do something. But you stick in. We've always done that.
And you mentioned it's been a long, hard campaign, but when we look back and we see that you finished 5th in the league, and you won the Border League as well. All in all, it's been a pretty good campaign.
It has been. 5th probably doesn't. It's not good enough in my books. I think we should have been a lot better. There's a lot of games where we're real close and we came along the wrong side of it, and they cost us. We lost at Musselburgh at home. It was a ridiculous loss, but I think then again we lost maybe 4 guys during that game, and it just shows when you do lose your experienced boys, it makes a big difference. And it is disappointing. Now we won the Border League, fine. That was a great win, and the club doesn't win it very often. It's good to pick that up, but I think we need to be looking a bit higher than that. 5th's not really good enough. I think we need to be competing, because at the start of the season we drew with Hoyk. You could say we could have won that game, and if you count back all the guys we've lost, sort of injuries and wise, you're probably looking at 10 guys that could have been playing today that started the season, and it just makes a massive difference. It's a shame, but it makes other boys come in, get a shot, and I see where you're at then.
Yeah, and on a personal level, of course, we have to mention 300 games for Selkirk. It's a remarkable feat, and you must be very proud of that.
I am. If you'd asked myself to, I was a 10-year-old laddie, to say I'd get 300 games for the club, he'd be a happy man. All I really want to do is play for Selkirk 300 times, putting the jersey on. It's a massive honour.
Yeah. Well, commiserations for the result today, Ross, like I say, but on that 300 achievement, that is massive, and massive congratulations from everybody here at Borders Rugby Radio.
Yeah, cool. Thanks very much. Cheers, guys.
Okay, that's Ross Nixon. 300 appearances, not out, of course. He'll be going on another, 3 or 4 seasons, isn't it, Ross? Still to come. A few more. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the tables as they stand after today, because it was Kelso 92 in National 1, Ayr 82, Melrose 81, Gala 67. We've got Highland on 66. We're still waiting on the bigger Aberdeen result at the moment, so they were on 53 as it stands. They will still stay in 6th position. In 7th, GHK 45, Dundee in 8th 44, 9th Stirling 39, 10th Watsonians 34, 11th is Aberdeen Grammar, and Stuart's Melville, who get a bonus point today on 13. International 2, where it is always very, very interesting, indeed very tight. Glasgow Accies go to the top. They're on 82 points, and points difference ahead of Newton Stewart in second place. Falkirk on 80. Then we've got Peebles 67. Lasswade have 53 points. 53 also for Kirkcaldy in 6th. 7th it's Berwick still. Dumfries are on 9th now, because Preston Lodge have just gone over them with 46, and Kirkcaldy Berwick rather have 44, Boroughmuir 29, Cartha Queen's Park 16, and Hamilton have 15 points. So that is the state of play in National 1 and National 2. Still unresolved issues, particularly between Watsonians, and a fantastic comeback from Stirling County there. Well, in the 3 Cup quarter-final matches played today, there were wins for Ayr, for Mar and for Glasgow Hawks. They progress along with Hawick to the semi-finals in 2 weeks' time. In National 1, victories for Highland, Kelso, Melrose and Stirling County. As I say, we're still waiting on the result of Biggar and Aberdeen. Peebles won in their National 2 game against Cartha Queen's Park, but Berwick went down at Glasgow Accies. Well, next week we're bringing you a feast of rugby on Good Friday and Easter Saturday. It's the world-famous Melrose Sevens from the Greenyards. Friday we'll see the new pre-qualification tournament and the Melrose Wasps under-18 event in a show that starts at 1:30. Then on Saturday we're on air from 10:30 to 8 o'clock, a marathon broadcast. You won't miss a thing during the Melrose Sevens. That's not long away now, but for me and the team from Millbrae, it's bye for now.